All right, everybody ready? All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order, our May 11th Mayor and Council meeting. Roll call, Bonnie. We have Councilwoman Troche is absent. No, we're going to vote on that. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilwoman Amy Turchi from this meeting.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Bonnie, that's 6 of us. Thank you. Also a reminder tonight, if there is a tie, it means the motion fails because there are 6 of us here to vote. So I just want to remind everybody of that as well. All right, exciting times. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we welcome 6 members of the Lego robotics team at Globe Academy and Kittredge Magnet School. What started with a group of friends meeting after school to play turned into competing and resulted in winning 3 competitions, regionals, state, and now they're headed to California to represent Georgia. We've got Alan, Dylan, Eli, Jack, Luke, and William. We have parent coaches. Raise your hands. Trisha Glenny and Ricky Patillo. Very good. And parents are out there too. This is exciting because you guys came to speak to us, right? During public comment, and they've been fundraising, and they write really nice thank you notes too. So super, super excited about that. So are you guys ready to lead us in the pledge? All right. Woo! All right. You guys want candy?
Good bowl.
Candy?
Good bowl.
There's some over there too. We're gonna send them home all sugared up for you.
Energy drink.
All right, safe travels.
Coffee.
Good luck. Will you come back and let us know? All right, maybe we'll do a proclamation when you win.
Not my Reese's.
We'll have them back for a proclamation when they win.
But actually,
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Speaking of, oh, now we got public comment. I wanted to do my proclamation. All right. Yay. We're moving on to D, public comment. Rules of decorum come from Robert's Rules of Order. Our meetings are held in accordance with Georgia's Open Meetings Act. We will call up those that signed up to speak and then open it up to those in the room. If you signed up by mistake, thinking we were taking attendance, feel free to say pass when your name is called. You will each have 2 minutes to speak, but keep in mind that it's not a back and forth. Neither council nor I can respond, to reserve and be respectful of your time. All right, Bonnie? Ready? Lois Shingler.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. I'm here for your 2 minutes of good news, which is actually 15 minutes of good news that I'm going to try to condense. Well, let's see how fast I can talk. Peter and Paul's Place is doing just beautifully. We are having our last art class at the end of May. The wonderful thing about that class is that we now have a community. The participants are starting to become not only friends, but worried about those who don't show up. And the parents and volunteers are also getting close. So I thank you all for that. I thank Tucker Recreation Center for letting that happen. So that's wonderful. The other thing that Peter and Paul's Place is doing, which is amazing, is that we're having our second theater workshop taught by 2 professional actresses who have appeared on, one has appeared, Cara Mantella has been on Scarpetta, Will Trent, and other local things. And Jessica Mizell is a local director and has been in some television programs. So if you have an opportunity and want to see what's going on, that's going to start in June. And we're going to end with a little showcase, which I'll let you all know about on the stage. That brings very exciting. So again, thank you to Tucker Recreation Center for letting us do that. The other hat I'm wearing tonight is the Tucker Art Alliance. We are active and in compliance as a nonprofit. So we are registered with the state of Georgia. It's only taken us 8 years, but there we are.
Did it.
So it's really, really very exciting. We are now moving to the next level. We're talking about what we want to be and how we want to do it. and we'll be talking to a lot of the local arts organizations. And I've already talked to Mama Debbie's and the metal workers, metal guild. And so I want to encourage you all. I know that there's a possibility of some money in the budget for public art and for the art and culture sort of scene in Tucker. And I want to encourage you not to get rid of it, to please keep it in there, because that brings money and people and wonderful things into our city. So thank you all for considering it, and thank you very much.
Good timing.
The Lego Lords.
Um, so we came in March to talk about our project, and we were trying to earn $20,000. So here's our update on that.
FLL is the largest K through 8th robotics competition in the world, and we qualified as two of the teams from Georgia to compete in the global robotics competition, Western Edge.
One part of the California Challenge is called On the Spot. Our team members are in Florida and Nebraska. We built an app called Dig It Up. We'd love for you to scan the QR code in the lobby to give feedback.
To raise money to go to California, we had spirit nights at Chick-fil-A and Fellini's. We actually had 2 at Chick-fil-A and 1 at Fellini's. It's funny because at the free competitions we went to, we've earned 4 trophies in all. Isn't that something?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, we don't know how much you earned.
Okay. So today we actually crossed the finish line of $20,000 at. Thank you. At $20,000, 100. So, yeah.
Hey, congrats and good luck. Amazing, amazing. Bonnie,
Blake Glover.
can you top that?
And I'm sorry. Well, thank you guys. And before I get into this real fast, what an amazing Tucker Days. Thank you to Tucker for what a great day we had on Main Street. That was amazing, and we enjoyed it very much. So good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. I did send an email, but I wanted to follow up as well this evening. My name is Blake Glover, and I am a business owner on Main Street in downtown Tucker, and I'm also a homeowner in Smoke Rise. And I did send an email regarding this issue, but I also wanted to come tonight and respectfully share these concerns publicly, because I believe this is something that needs attention sooner rather than later. First, I want to thank all of you for your time and effort that has gone into studying the downtown parking and the discussions that you guys have had already. I know there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and I appreciate the city continuing to explore the additional parking opportunities such as PNC and other signage improvements. However, after recent conversations and updates, I do want to respectfully express my disappointment and concern with the decision to possibly pause the time-limited parking at this time. While additional parking spaces and better signage are positive steps, I truly do not believe those changes alone solve the real problem many Main Street businesses are facing every day. The issue is not simply the number of spaces. The issue is the most visible and convenient spaces on Main Street are frequently occupied all day by employees and long-term parties or parkers. Parties as well. For businesses like mine and many others such as Munster Cookies, Wine and Whimsies, and some other small retailers, our customers are often making quick stops. They may want to grab cookies, buy a gift, sign paperwork, pick up documents, or stop in briefly during lunch. But instead, they drive down Main Street to see no parking available and continue driving. I think one important question which we should consider is how much businesses are losing today because customers cannot conveniently park. How many people can't stop for cookies, gifts, etc. I fully support continuing to expand parking options, but I strongly believe time-limited parking needs to be a part of the solution. Thank you.
Jennifer White.
Okay. We'll call you up later. Thank you. All right, very good. We have, stop the clock. We have like 3 minutes left. If anybody else has anything they want to come up and say. All right. Right here.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and everybody else. Thank you so much for everything that you do. My name is Sarah Thompson, and I'm from HWPL, Georgia. We're a nonprofit, and we do a lot of volunteering throughout DeKalb and throughout also Georgia. And we actually wanted to invite the city to be able to take part in a declaration that's happening this summer. One thing that we're doing is we're having a Play for Peace movement, which is for many youth. They get to have a free 3-week camp where they will learn things like leadership skills, nonviolence, and also get to participate in soccer and sports and things like that. We're putting this on to combat things such as the teen takeovers, but also just a lot of unrest generally for the youth. So we sent an email to your office today. And yes, we wanted to extend that invitation to you. That is all. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you. All right, 2 minutes. Anybody going once, going twice? All right, I'm going to close out public comment. Thank you, everybody. And now we have Mayor's opening remarks. We have a proclamation tonight in recognition of Public Works Week, May 17th through the 23rd. So I'm going to ask everybody to come down while we read this. Ishri, you guys are coming up, you and Jeff. All right. Oh, no wonder you two are in suits. I thought it was that they were asking for money,
That
but
too.
now I know that's your budget. All right, I'm gonna give that to you. In recognition of Public Works Week, May 17th to the 23rd, 2026. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Tucker, Georgia. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector. They are responsible for rebuilding and maintaining our city's transportation and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. Whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Tucker to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. Whereas the city of Tucker would like to pay tribute to our public works professionals, Ishri Sankar, Jeff Mueller, Jennifer Downer, Scott Caldwell, and Jarius Reed, and all of those out in the field, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed by the mayor of the city of Tucker and the council that the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2026 be recognized as Public Works Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Tucker to be affixed this 11th day of May, 2026. Thank you. All right. Picture. Look at Sonia. Bend down. Photobomb. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, just a few more opening remarks. The city of Tucker approved 33 new occupational tax certificates in the month of April. 25 are commercial-based businesses and 8 are home-based. And then we've got some fun activities coming up this Saturday. Perk Up with Parks, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at Tucker Recreation Center. The Stone Mountain Women's Club Garden Tour is from 10 to 4 on Saturday, and you can get tickets at Wine and Whimsy, and several of those gardens are in Smoke Rye, so they are in the city of Tucker. And then the Brockett Performing Arts Club presents Willy Wonka Jr. That sounds intriguing. For 2 shows at 1 and 5 p.m. at Mount Moriah Church off of Brockett Road. So looking forward to that. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Bonnie, I see 6, thank you. All right. Let's move on to G, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, very good. Motion's been made in second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing no discussion, all those in favor? All right, 6-0. Very good. Now we're moving on to old business, H1. Bonnie, you want to read in the ordinance for us, please?
We have ordinance O 2026-04-04. This is a second read and public hearing of an ordinance to amend the City of Tucker Code, Chapter 46, including changes to definitions and other purposes.
All right.
Good evening. As stated, we're here for the second read of the text amendment. This is our first text amendment this year, proposing 4 small changes for mayor and council to consider. Not sure what's happening with the font. Why is it all? So the 4 changes include increasing the lot coverage in the NL4 zoning district, changing the public notice requirements to match state law, providing clarifying language for SLUP criteria, and adding a definition for performing arts facility. Oh, perfect. Thank you. In terms of the changes for Article 3, we are proposing to increase the lot coverage in the NL4 zoning district from 50% to 80%. This zoning district started just for Vista Dale Court, which is off of La Vista. It was intended to be a small transitional area. However, this zoning district has been expanded and applied elsewhere in North Lake and allows a variety of residential uses. And 50% is just not typical with an urban area and the town center character area. So we're recommending increasing both areas to 80%. You'll see here this is consistent with the other special zoning districts in downtown and North Lake, which all allow between 80 and 90% lot coverage. And as you're aware, the comp plan does direct all of our density to North Lake and downtown, so this would be keeping in line with that policy of the comprehensive plan. In terms of Article 7, we're wanting to change the zoning procedures law information about advertising. So previously, the zoning procedures law required 15 to 45 days for public notice. The state legislature actually increased that time frame for certain applications back in 2022, and this body updated the code in 2023 to reflect that. The legislature actually reverted back to the prior language, and so now we're here to change our code once more. And we've already shortened that application process to reflect the new time frame, which is great for our businesses and applicants because it allows applications to go through the process quicker. So these are the track changes showing that reverting back to 15 to 45 days. And then this one had a lot of discussion at the last meeting, but staff was proposing to amend criteria 19 for the SLUP criteria. This is the criteria that deals with proliferation. The topic has been recently discussed with our SLUPs in North Lake, as both Tucker and DeKalb County have the same character area, which is town center. And so staff initially proposed recommending adding the language within the city of Tucker to that criteria. However, there was a lot of good discussion, and staff did put an alternative ordinance in the packet that removes this change. And then the last change is to Article 9, where we are proposing to add a definition for performing arts facility. This is a line item in the use table. However, it's not defined. I mean, we have had an increase in performing arts facilities in the city of Tucker, so we felt that it was important to add a definition. As you can see, it includes a variety of language, including reference to live music, plays, dance, theater productions, and stand-up comedy within an enclosed building. And it also clarifies that those performances can be hosted by the business owner, or the space can be rented by another performing arts facility that can be using those the space for those uses. So staff recommends approval of all or part of TA-26-0001. Planning Commission reviewed the text amendment and recommended approval with the exception of that proposed change to the SLUP criteria. And then to reiterate, there are two versions of this ordinance in your packet. The first ordinance is from the first read, which includes the change to the proliferation language. The second ordinance is titled Alternative Ordinance, and it removes that change. So it's been removed from the ordinance header and the whereas and the exhibits. And that concludes my presentation.
All right. Reminder, this is a public hearing, but we'll go ahead and take questions first for Courtney. Anybody have any questions on this for Courtney?
Appreciate the update. I know we talked the last time about the lot coverage increase and if there was a way for us to add any corresponding requirements or preservation for existing trees and or penalties for removing existing trees. I think my concern is that as we're talking about these other requirements, or how it's matching the other zoning. I just have some concerns about it being, I mean, we've talked about this before when it comes to trees in particular, that the penalties are fairly low. And so we have seen a lot of things that, you know, yes, I believe fully that some of the trees are sick that are getting cut down with the developments, but I also think there's some that aren't. And we, you know, hear consistently from our community about how much the old growth trees in our community are important to them. So my concern is just once we pass this, I would like to know if there's a plan that we can move very quickly on addressing the tree ordinance, so that we can not have too many people grandfathered in under something that, you know, might allow them to significantly change the green space. And so that's kind of a question and a comment. Is there any corresponding, how does this affect the pervious or impervious surface like requirement? So is this
So
that?
this would increase the amount of lot coverage or impervious surface on a lot. However, we did look at that comment from the first read, and that would be a change to our land development code, not the zoning code. So we would have to come back with a different text amendment. And I would think we would come to a work session to discuss that type of topic. Even if you're at 50% lot coverage or 80 or 90, a developer is still allowed to clear cut under the land development code. So increasing this would not impact whether the trees stay or go. So that would need to be a different text amendment.
And I think that's a larger conversation that's good to start out as a work session, but might not be solved in one go around. So thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up.
I understand it may take a while. I just would like to start it and kind of know that there's going to be some urgency to starting that conversation, because I think, you know, we've brought it up for a while, just in different ways.
Add it to our list. All right, very good, very good. Any other questions on this for Courtney? All right, so I'm gonna move on to a public hearing. I'm gonna open the first public hearing for all those who are in favor of this ordinance. You're welcome to come up. All right, seeing none, I'm gonna close that public hearing portion of that public hearing, and then I'm gonna call up anybody who's opposed to this ordinance. All righty, seeing none, I'm gonna close that out. And since this is old business and a second read, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 0202604004.
Okay. Which one? There's two versions.
Right. I would propose for the alternative ordinance.
Second.
Is that
Um,
fine the way that was proposed? Mr. Baggett?
I'm just looking to see if if these are numbered the same or differently.
They're numbered the same.
Exhibit A in the header. It has the change removed from the header, the whereas, and the Exhibit A that's included.
I think given the heading, the minutes will reflect that the motion was on the alternative ordinance. I think that's clear.
Great. Thank you. All right, I got a second on that. We got a second? All right. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Bonnie, that's 6. Thank you. All right, moving on to H2. Bonnie?
We have ordinance O 2026-04-05, second read and public hearing of an ordinance to amend Article 4 of City Charter relating to municipal court.
We discussed this about a month ago, and this is the second read of a charter amending ordinance that cleans up some of the things in the city charter regarding the municipal court article. Are there any questions?
Ted? No? All righty. You ready? So this also is a public hearing, so I'm going to call to order the portion of the public hearing for all those in favor of this ordinance. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that out and I'm going to open up the portion for any opposed. Seeing none, I'm going to close that out and I'm going to ask for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 02026-04-05.
I'll second.
Thank you. Got the motion in the second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Bonnie, 6-0. All right, thank you. We're going to move on to new business. Bonnie?
We have Resolution R 2026-05-17, consideration of a resolution to appoint Stephen W. Nicholas as Chief Judge to serve in the Tucker Municipal Court.
So this one has my name on it, but these are actually the mayor's appointees you're about to hear about. The terms of all of the municipal court judges currently seated expire on May 23rd. So we will need some new ones or to reappoint. Chief Judge Nicholas has been, at a time when there was only one judge, it was Judge Nicholas, so I think by default he was the chief judge. He was formally named as chief judge in 2021, and so has served in various other municipal courts as a chief judge, City of Winder, City of Avondale Estates, and the resolution sort of speaks for itself. The charter provides that the mayor nominates and city council confirm judicial nominees.
All right, don't go too far. I don't, right? All right, very good. I just want to say that I met with Judge Nicholas and he was very complimentary of both you, Ted, and our marshal service and the rest of our court staff. I think he has done a very good job of keeping us in order and making sure municipal court runs well. And I do know that we will be appointing an associate judge in a minute because he is aware that we like to have some support and understudy too, but he's done a really good job for us and we appreciate him. And it's always about compliance, getting folks into compliance for him. So we appreciate that. All right, any questions? All right, seeing no questions, I'm going to move that you approve for me to appoint Judge Stephen W. Nicholas as our chief judge to serve in the Tucker Municipal Court.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Bonnie, we've got 6. Thank you.
Okay, we have Resolution R 2026-05-18, consideration of a resolution to appoint Jennifer L. White as an associate judge to serve in the Tucker Municipal Court.
So again, same drill. My name's on this, but it's actually the mayor behind who's behind it. And the associate judge is the same authority, except that the chief judge really is sort of the main scheduler. Judge White is someone that we've identified who has experience in the municipal courts of Snellville, Suwanee, Brazelton. We are fortunate in that the city courts the municipal court administrator, Janessa Cephasile, has actually worked with Judge White on the Suwanee bench. And the only thing I forgot to add was that now that you have approved the charter revision, these are 2-year terms that we're appointing these judges for. That should be in the resolution as well.
Thank you. I just want to let you all know that Judge White came highly recommended by where she serves in Gwinnett County, prior service there as well. I appreciated her taking the time to come here, meet with the court staff, ask questions, and really do her research before agreeing to the appointment. And I'll have her come up in a minute after we're done here. So any questions for me or Ted? All right, so I'm going to ask you to approve Judge Jennifer L. White as an associate judge to serve in Tucker Municipal Court.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor? All right, that's 6. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Judge White, would you like to come up for a minute?
Thank you for hearing me at this later time. And thank you for your confidence, your vote of confidence in the appointment. I appreciate that. As was mentioned by Mr. Baggett, I do serve as an associate judge in several other cities, and each city carries with it its unique character and its unique flair. Obviously, there are commonalities that string them all together, but I'm very excited to be serving in this particular community and in this particular court and learn about the character and flair. Although I am not a resident of the city of Tucker, I have many friends, lifelong friends that are, and they're lifelong community members, and their parents and their grandparents, and they all rave about it and the very unique character of the city and the community feel, the small town community feel. So I'm excited to be a part of it and excited to learn the court, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon for a proper swearing in. We'll follow up probably tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And she was so kind. She said, I don't mind staying for the rest of the meeting. I said, run while you can. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, how exciting. I-3. Bonnie?
We have Resolution R 2026-04-12, consideration of a resolution to establish the Tucker Youth Council.
So exciting.
It is. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to present and request approval to establish a youth council for the city of Tucker. Wait, how come I can see it? Why does it look like that? It doesn't look like that. Okay, perfect. There we go. So the purpose of a youth council is to create opportunities for the youth of Tucker to become engaged and involved in their local government, to aid in the decision-making process, help create projects and activities for the community, be the voice of the younger population, and assist in amplifying the messaging of the city. For example, we are not on TikTok. It would be great if we could be on TikTok via them.
With some ground rules.
Well, right. No, they will not be representing the city. I mean, just like amplify our voice. Should the council approve to move forward, staff will work with the staff and administration at Tucker High School. We will also be reaching out to various private schools and homeschooling groups within the city of Tucker, as we do want a diverse representation on this council. The application process will open in August with interviews in early September, and the first meeting will be in late September, and from there move forward with monthly meetings. We are hoping to have up to 14 council members, so we're doubling y'all. Takes two to do y'all's jobs. The Youth Council will establish their own leadership. They will help review and establish their bylaws, and they will be the ones that will be identifying the opportunities within the city's upcoming business and how they can possibly provide some feedback. Each term will be 1 year, and we will be asking for applications from sophomores and juniors. Sophomores and juniors are welcome to apply. So sophomores through seniors can apply for a 1-year term. And again, they will meet monthly throughout the school year, and they will have a graduation from the program. Before I open it up for questions, I would just like to mention that we do have this in our operational budget in the Parks and Recreation budget. And we are requesting $1,000 just for snacks and some possible swag to keep them, they're hungry.
Would you talk a little bit about, I was reading in the memo, you all had also coordinated and learned and partnered with the Georgia Municipal Association.
Oh, yes. So actually last March, I saw an article in the GMA magazine about establishing youth councils. And they were looking to start a new cohort for cities that did not have any, and have kind of like a mentor program where we would hear from established cities, youth council leaders. So I signed up for it, and we met monthly for 6 months. And it was a really great opportunity to hear from established youth councils in their best practices, how to move forward, and also what a youth council is and is not.
Any questions? Questions down here?
I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it, but when do they actually apply? Is it the beginning?
It'll be in August.
Okay.
Yeah, right
Was
when
it
school starts.
I didn't put it in my notes, so.
I don't know that it was, it's in the presentation.
Okay,
It wasn't
yeah.
in the memo.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think Councilman, when you would have been on the youth council if we had one when you were at Tucker High School.
I am not the person I used to be.
Don't tell your secrets. Don't tell your secrets. Councilwoman Weaver.
First, and I'm not sure $1,000 is enough.
For snacks?
For snacks,
Right.
having a 14-year-old
Yeah.
at the worst time as inflations is going up. Seriously, we have a lock for our fridge. But occasionally we use it. And I appreciate too, I mean, I think I would add the swag part is really important. So I mean, I would make sure that there is like probably a t-shirt and a polo
Oh, yeah.
option for presentations and things like that. I wanted to find out, in reading the memo, I would love there to be an opportunity for council to play a role. So it looked like the applications are selected based by the staff. And so if there's a way for either it to be like us making recommendations or participating in any of the interview process or mentor, like some kind of thing. I read a lot of this, which is of course needs to happen, being very like staff driven. And so if there's a role that we can play, in support of that, I think that would be great.
We'll certainly take that into consideration, but we definitely want y'all involved throughout the term. Maybe alternating, attending the meetings, and just kind of helping to guide the conversation based on y'all's experiences, and also what business is coming up.
And then I had one other question kind of to go with Councilman Reese. So starts in August, will it go through like July so that they can do things during the summer, or will it only be a school year term?
Yes. So the summer part, I think attendance for the monthly meetings will be, we'll let them decide. But that's when all of our big events are, and that's their opportunity to do the volunteer hours that we plan on requiring.
Any other questions? I gotta tell y'all, we're in the schools, we're reading in the schools with our elementary schools, Mayor's Reading Club. Some of us are going to Tucker Middle School tomorrow to be interviewed about some of our parks projects. We've got some more presentations coming up with the middle school. High schoolers are super excited. And it's fun because I'm going to show this real quick story. I'm coming to our First Friday concert and I'm coming down the stairs and this child is on a scooter and climbing our piece of artwork. And you know me, I'm a former middle school teacher. They're like, hey. And he's like, Mrs. Lerner, it's so-and-so. You read to me at Livesey. And I was like, okay, I remember you, but still don't climb the statue. So they're loving it. I think they're excited that we're all coming and that middle schoolers are getting the garden ready to show us. They were telling me that the garden, they're in charge of that and they need to make it look nice for when we arrive to school. So super important. Thank you for initiating this and thank you to our Parks and Recreation staff as well. All right. Can I get a motion for this? Councilwoman Weaver?
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution.
You're good.
Resolution R 2026-04-12 to establish the Tucker Youth Council.
Second.
All right, excellent. Any discussion on the motion? Would we do something wrong? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. All right, no discussion on the motion. So,
I was just real quick going to say that I think it's so wonderful that we've decided to move forward with this. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all blossoms in the community. So thanks for all the collaboration too, to make it happen.
excellent. Okay.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Councilmember Schroeder said, we talk about, the next generation and how important that is. And so this is such a great opportunity to foster our leadership of the future. So congrats and thank you for working on this.
Because we're all term limited, so we need some folks coming up through the pipeline, right? Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Any more discussion? All right, thank you. All those in favor? All right, very good. Thank you, thank you. All right, next, I-4.
We have Resolution R 2026-05-16, consideration of a resolution in support of the City of Milton.
Good evening again. Y'all will recall that the City of Milton asked the city and many others to enter into an amicus brief pleading in the case of Chang versus City of Milton. That case was decided by the state Supreme Court in March of this year. And the court, I think, made some strides towards clarifying the law with respect to sovereign immunity as it applies to municipalities. The case is now on remand to the Georgia Court of Appeals. What the Supreme Court said was, in a fairly narrow holding, basically, sovereign immunity is waived for defects in the street or failure to maintain a municipal street, but if it is in the lane of travel. And so on the pure issue of negligence, did not find that the city had exposure, but on remand to the Georgia Court of Appeals, the issue is now before them as to whether or not the city faces any liability for maintaining a nuisance, which is another anomaly in Georgia law, if you will, that applies only to municipalities. It creates something I've always thought was a rather strange distinction between cities, counties, and the state that might be doing exactly the same functions. The state would be protected by the Georgia Tort Claims Act, which imposes different standards and caps. Counties rely upon constitutional sovereign immunity and would only be liable in the instance of a taking. But cities, if you maintain a nuisance, which means that it's open and notorious, you had notice and you didn't fix it, so you already get one warning, if you will, there is no sovereign immunity. So it's a tremendous exposure, and the $35 million verdict against the city of Milton could stand theoretically. If the Court of Appeals decides that it doesn't want to bring some changes to that doctrine, which is judge-made. The Supreme Court has, and it's recited there in the resolution, has indicated on a number of occasions that it's judge-made, that only waivers of sovereign immunity should come and be statutory or based on the Constitution. And so basically Milton is asking its city allies who stood with it before to stand with it again, pass this resolution. They did provide a sample. The only thing I have altered is to ask that if you're going to support this, you give me a little bit of the ability to approve it. I just want to make sure. I'm sure they'll pick very good lawyers who'll make very good argument, but I just didn't want to give them carte blanche. So it does condition our joining on my review and approval of whatever they put out before it's filed. Our name on it.
All right, any questions? Any questions for Ted?
What, if anything, has either the Georgia Municipal Association or other cities said or done about joining this?
Well, of course, my first love is Tucker, but I am the city attorney for other cities. And it's on their agenda as well. The mayor of Milton has reached out directly to a number of cities like they did the first time. I'm not aware of anything that the Municipal Association is doing. When we first looked at this, when the case was before the Supreme Court, I did contact the legal department at GMA, and they said that's City of Milton's leading that effort, which I thought was a bit odd. But I can't answer as to what GMA is doing. I do know that many of the same cities who passed a resolution before are taking it up on their agendas.
The mayor reached out directly to me to ask us to do this.
So does that mean, so I'll say I'm in favor of it, where I'm just trying to understand like what the way to convey the impact the potential impact to cities is in this, in terms of, as you have highlighted for us, like, if it just takes one to basically wipe out and shut down a city completely. And so that's where I was trying to get at. So GMA has done no policy analysis or like what the potential consequences to cities across Georgia would be by setting.
I don't know the answer. I didn't look again to see what they've done, if anything, after the first time around when they just sort of said it was being led by Milton. So I don't want to misrepresent. They may have done something, I'm just not aware of it. I will say, I mean, though, to the impact question, and we've had occasion to kind of look at this with respect to other states recently. And most other states would waive sovereign immunity, but would place a cap. And that's been the typical pattern in almost every state. I haven't yet found another state like Georgia where, because of a judge-made rule, there's a no cap and a complete waiver of sovereign immunity in this kind of circumstance. So there probably does need to be some balancing here.
And it could be, I've not seen anything in any of the literature or anything they've put out, but Rushi Patel might be somebody good to reach out to.
I'm just also thinking about the types of things that we talk about. This always seems to come after the legislative session is over, but we also know that legislative session starts early. And so I'm not looking at you because you're not involved in whatever legislative actions that we're doing, but it does seem like that's the kind of thing that should maybe be on our radar in the future, about what we, can be advocating with our representatives about.
I will plead guilty for 10 years in a row as a Georgia Municipal Association legal department employee and lobbyist of trying to get the legislature to change this law unsuccessfully.
Oh, interesting. Oh, thank you for that clarity. All right, can I get a motion?
I thought you guys, sorry. Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution R2026-05-16.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the resolution?
Can we put like our names in big swoopy John Hancock level and or spell out our individual names, not just Mayor Ann Lerner and council?
We can do that for you. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, very good. All right, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor? All right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed? And I've got one abstaining. Thank you, Councilman Orlando. Thank you. All right, we're moving right along to I-5. Bonnie?
We have ordinance O 2026-05-06, first read and public hearing of an ordinance for a special land use permit SLUP 26-0003 for a drive-through facility at 4453 Hugh Howell Road, applicant Dale Friedley, Wayner Summers, Inc.
Good evening. We're here for the first read of special land use permit 26-0003. This is for the former Wendy's site at 4453 Hugh Howell Road. The property is zone C1 and is located in the light industrial character area. And the request is to add a drive-through facility for a Whataburger. The property is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Hugh Howell Road and Rosser Terrace between the Brio and a former State Farm agency. Again, this map shows that the property is zone C1 and is located in the light industrial character area. Here's an aerial of the former Wendy's site. You can see there's 2 access points off of Hugh Howell Road. And a street view image of the former Wendy's that opened in the 1970s. I think we can all recognize that front. All sat there at one point in our life enjoying the sun. They are looking to remodel the existing building. They're not looking to tear down and build new. But they want to add the drive-through use back. It previously expired after non-use of 6 months or more. So Whataburger is proposing 24/7 hours of operation. They will be maintaining a single drive-through lane if approved. We'll be refreshing the exterior building materials, demolishing that front solarium and replacing it with open-air dining, restoring the 50-foot buffer in the rear, reducing the parking to add tree islands, putting a new dumpster enclosure further from the residential and outside of the buffer, redirecting the speaker box away from residential, and then replacing the non-conforming signage with compliant signage. So here is the survey of existing conditions. You can see again those 2 access points. The building currently encroaches into the 60-foot front setback. There is not much of a buffer at the rear. You can see there's parking spaces and a dumpster enclosure in that buffer. This is the site plan that went to Planning Commission on April 16th. You can see they reduced the building encroachment into that front setback, added outdoor dining, added street trees and parking lot landscaping, and then restored that 50-foot buffer at the rear. After Planning Commission and staff feedback, the applicant made a few additional changes. They added that sidewalk that is existing along Hugh Howell Road that was put in by the city. They've added street trees and street lights along Hugh Howell. And they've also added a sidewalk to connect from the main sidewalk to the front of the building. These are elevations of the proposed remodel. The applicant did host a neighborhood meeting on February 24th at the Tucker Reed Kofer Library. 10 people were in attendance, including the applicant's team, and questions and concerns included the size and height of the building, hours of operation, security, percentage of drive-through business, things like that nature. So drive-through facilities do require a special land use permit in the C1 zoning district to ensure compatible nature of surrounding developments and the comprehensive plan. It also has to comply with certain supplemental regulations. It is a small, compact site, but the applicant does meet open space requirements and parking, and they have been able to restore that buffer in the rear. The applicant initially wanted to have a double drive-through lane, but was willing to forego that in order to restore the buffer, which is great for the residential at the rear. Again, it lost its non-conforming status after Wendy's closed for more than 6 months, so they're here to get that special land use permit. The SLUP requirement is new in the C1 zoning district with the text amendment that City Council did in 2025. The use is consistent with the active commercial nature of Hugh Howell Road. It is a transitional area in the light industrial character area that's between our downtown character area and the Mountain Industrial Boulevard overlay. So it is very transitional in nature. They would not be required to do any stormwater as they're not disturbing more than 5,000 square feet. It's not expected that Hugh Howell will be adversely affected. They're maintaining the 2 existing curb cuts, single drive-through lane that was previously in operation. Again, staff did recommend the addition of a pedestrian walkway to ensure safe access from the street to the front of the building, so people aren't walking in the drive aisle or the grass. Do not expect any excessive noise, dust, or vibrations, and that speaker box has been relocated so it doesn't directly face the residential property. 24/7 operation is not consistent with the neighboring businesses. However, the applicant states that the 24-hour model does deter crime because the building is active at all times. The drive-through does comply with the C1 zoning district if the SLUP is approved. The use is largely consistent with the light industrial character area, and they have enhanced the site to be more in line with the requirements of the C1 zoning district and light industrial character area. I will say that reusing the existing 2 curb cuts is not ideal for traffic management, but it does allow for a better design and layout for additional landscaping and green space between the building and the street. And this is something that the council previously looked at with our last text amendment, is to not have any drive-through lanes or exit lanes between the building and the street. And so that 2 curb cut model does allow for that design. 50-foot transitional buffer will be restored, providing protection to the residential properties to the south. There's a designated dumpster and dumpster enclosure on the site plan. The mass and scale is appropriate to adjacent buildings and will not be changing. And the proposal does comply with the supplemental regulations, which include the distance to residential property, the speaker box, the location of the drive-through lanes and service windows, drive-through canopies being built to be aesthetically pleasing like the primary building, stacking spaces, and then bypass lanes. And then also on-site traffic movement, striping and curbing, and the setback of the drive-through lanes. There are 3 drive-through restaurants within 500 feet of the parcel. However, only 1 is located in the same light industrial character area. And so that proliferation language does look at within the same character area. So while there's only 1 in the same light industrial character area, there is a drive-through ice cream shop that's also nearby. And again, staff will state that the area is in a transitional area in the light industrial character area, and the proposal does comply with the supplemental regulations. And the modifications that they're proposing do make the site more compatible with the objectives of the comprehensive plan and the surrounding area. So staff is recommending approval with conditions of the special land use permit. Those conditions reference an approved site plan, require the drive-through lanes and windows to comply with the supplemental regulations, have a 5-foot pedestrian path connecting the sidewalk to the building, requiring the restoration of the 50-foot buffer per code, installing street trees and pedestrian streetlights behind the existing sidewalk on Hugh Howell Road, and the owner developer shall remove the existing ground sign that is considered abandoned at this point during the renovation process and build new code-compliant signage as part of the redevelopment. The application went to Planning Commission, and they also recommended approval with staff conditions. And that brings us to the first read this evening.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. We'll hear from the applicant during that time, and then we'll come back with questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for all those in favor.
Good evening. My name is Dale Friedley. My address is 1550 Southland Circle in Atlanta. I am with Warner Summers, Inc. We are the project architect for this project. We're here on behalf of Made to Order Holdings, which is the local Whataburger franchisee for this area. Whataburger strives to embody their mission, which is their mission statement is 24 hours of goodness, hence the open 24/7, 364 days per year. They are closed on Christmas. It does serve made-to-order food for all of their customers. Everything is made fresh. They strive to be an active part of the communities that they serve, and they will be providing 60 to 80 jobs, including a student scholarship program. With that, I think Courtney covered pretty much everything as part of our proposal, so I'll reserve the rest of my time if you have any questions, but I would like to introduce Harrison Parker, who is with Made to Order Holdings.
Thank you, Dale. Yeah, my name is Harrison Parker. I'm with Made to Order Holdings. We are the Georgia franchisee for Whataburger. And so we currently have 13 stores open. And we, again, are all Georgia-based people. We're here in Griffin. I'm in Griffin, live in Macon. And then our operating partner lives in Sandy Springs. So we are local Georgia people, and we're excited to be part of this community. And like Dale said, we're happy to answer any questions you may have for us. But thank you.
Did we have our timer going as well? All right, I just want to check our time on that. All right, well, all right. I'll figure that out. You guys were quick. Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of the application? All right, we'll reserve some time for y'all if you need it. Okay, I'm going to close that out. I'm going to open a public hearing for anyone who's here in opposition. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion out. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do questions. Anybody have any questions? Also, did you all have a PowerPoint and we just didn't have it up for you? Was there anything in that? Oh, so Courtney used it all? Okay, so you're good. I just see us go. Okay. So we'll go ahead while we're working on that and we'll get some questions going. All right. Anybody down here? Go ahead.
Good evening. I actually just have a couple of questions. One is the parking lot. I am assuming it'll be repaved. Like I know it appears you're doing a very comprehensive repurposing, remodeling of this building. The parking lot will be repaved, I'm assuming.
I think it will be evaluated
Okay.
as to whether it needs to be repaved.
Okay.
Certainly with the reworking of the back portion of the site to increase the buffer, there will be undoubtedly be some repaving. I can't say for sure whether the entire thing would be repaved or not.
Okay.
But at this point, we'll evaluate it and see what it needs.
Okay.
As you know, the parking lot's been there quite some time and it's pretty rough, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. And then the renderings were really lovely with all of the trees and, shrubbery and stuff like that. Is that true too, or is that?
So what we have today is just a graphic representation of it.
Yeah.
As required by the requirements require us to have a landscape architect to design all of that. All of the landscaping will be done in accordance with city code, and we're happy to work with city staff in order to make that happen.
Yeah.
They've been great to work with so far. We've gone back and forth several times, and our goal is to work with you all and be a partner with you as opposed to just come in and push our agenda. So that's really what we're after here.
Yep. I think maybe one more question, and that is about the front sitting area, which I liked, especially post-pandemic. A lot of people want to sit outside, be outdoors. I'm curious about shading there and, maybe some considerations for that, or, I mean, I don't know how the sun goes. It may
Right.
not matter, but I'm just real curious if that's something that has been.
So there are locations that do have shading devices, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're just umbrellas. I don't think that's been determined yet, but
Okay.
certainly that could be a consideration without any problem.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilman Nguyen? Nope. All right. Councilman Schroeder?
Yes, so I was curious. I have seen Whataburger all over the community, and when my husband and I travel in the southeast, we see Whataburgers. Why did you pick Tucker?
I'll defer to my counterpart.
Actually, so funny enough, we've been looking in the city of Tucker. So I've been with Made to Order for almost 4 years now. And Tucker, we have been looking in Tucker since early 2023 for the right spot. I think Courtney met me about 2.5 years ago. And just looking again for the right spot. We think this is a growing community. We think it's the right people for what we serve and who we are. So just for clarification, Whataburger Corporate has everything north of Fulton County. And so we are Fulton County South. And so this is kind of, we have Johns Creek that just opened earlier this year, and Roswell was kind of our first Atlanta store. And so this has been just a market we haven't been able to get into and touch. We've got Conyers and Covington. And so we've been trying to find some here for a long time. So we're excited about it. And Hope that answers your question.
Does. I'm just then also curious how you're going to keep the drive-through going after school is out. Right there, on Hugh Howe, because I think that you'll have a good line, every day after school.
Well, we hope so. And, you know, as Dale mentioned, we cook everything fresh. So we start cooking the food when you walk in and order it. We don't have anything sitting in a warming tray. That is one of our brand promises, and it's the reason our food is high quality. And so we typically get a reputation for not being the fastest in the industry, but that's because you get fresh food. But we do serve food in 5 minutes or under. And so we've got dedicated team members, and our operations team is good. So they'll keep it moving.
Texas Councilwoman down.
I know you beat me to the punch. So I'm a Texas gal from San Antonio, went to the University of Texas.
Love it.
Whataburger is my first stop every time I go back to visit family. And I was
She wrote
excited to be.
recuse herself though from the vote.
No.
Need to do
No,
that.
no, no.
Well, I mean, just, you know, to Council Member Schroeder's point, I was curious. I do have a serious question, but before that, would you just speak to your breakfast menu? And I'm hoping you'll have some breakfast burritos, some breakfast tacos,
Full-
some
full
jalapeno
service-
cheddar biscuits.
Yeah.
Um,
Service breakfast.
I just don't know if our Georgia folks know exactly what menu you all bring when it comes to breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we serve breakfast from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. And it is a full service breakfast. And again, I'm the real estate guy, so I'm going to get a little bit out of my realm of knowledge here. But I always tell everyone, I think I told a couple of the council members when they were there, when they asked me what my favorite thing was, I said breakfast. It is, I think it's an underrated menu, and it is very good. So the honey butter chicken biscuit, can't go wrong.
Thank you for that. Okay, serious question. One, also to Councilmember Schroeder's comment about the middle school students. So I know this has come up in previous like drive-through applications before, particularly restaurants. Like, what do you kind of estimate your volume at your peak time is in terms of traffic through the drive-through?
Yeah, that is very hard to say at this moment, but I know we have a traffic study, or we're going to have a traffic study. We're not with trip generation letter. Thank you. Do you have it on there? I do not know the answer to that question, but I am happy to get that for you.
Okay, I would highly recommend it before the next week because I am positive it will come up, and it would be helpful to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know this isn't a requirement, but I'm just sort of curious because we saw the benefit in traffic to having more access points opened up. Like, have y'all been able to talk to the Brio folks at all about potentially like interparcel access on like my directions are messed up. And if there's any interest at all in that.
We certainly have no issue with cross access. I think, if I'm not incorrect, there's a retaining wall right there.
I think there's a small, like maybe 12-inch retaining wall along one portion.
Okay.
So as it stands today, there's actually no access to any of the adjacent sites on either side. So it's purely just curb cuts back out to the street. We have not had any discussions with either of the neighbors to do that, just because we've been constrained to our site as it stands. I can't remember the name of the business that is Plan North, I suppose you could say there, but it is a dance studio, performing arts center. So I'm sure they have a lot of traffic there. The site next door is currently for sale. So I'm sure there would be some considerations there if we were to gain access to their site. But at this time, there haven't been any discussions about it. I would say this about traffic, though. Part of what we do from a standpoint of traffic is that if it becomes an issue, because we have such a good relationship with police officers, because of the 24/7 hours of operation, we would hire off-duty police officers to help with that to manage that traffic during peak times.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think, again, it's more how close. Very much appreciate the existing use and like revitalization and adapting what's there and not doing new work. I just know that we have a lot of folks still like not turning correctly at Rosser Terrace. And so if there were opportunities at any point for interparcel access, I think it would just be a general beneficial piece, but understanding that
Sure.
private property owners are going to make the decisions that they can.
Exactly right.
I do have the numbers from the trip generation report, estimating 81 trips in the AM peak and 77 trips in the PM peak.
All right, any other questions? All right, Councilman.
Just one for Courtney. Can you remind me what our sidewalk ordinance and requirements are for this area?
It is likely a 6 foot, but this, I think is a 5 from when it was put in city project or a CID project. City project.
So it's 5 currently in front of them,
Mhm.
and we're just matching
They're not replacing the sidewalk on the
The-
frontage.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no requirement, but for the interior, but it's 5. So
Okay.
it'll match.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else, this was a first read, so we will see you back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, moving on to I6, Bonnie.
We have ordinance O 2026-05-07, a first read and public hearing of an ordinance to adopt a budget for fiscal year 2027.
Yes, sir. I know, he was like sitting there so nonchalant. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Eric? Who's up? Batter up.
So. We're going to just take you through some of the approval process, which, I don't you'll see this on the slides, but we are now at our first read and public hearing. So we will take this to adoption at our second read and potential adoption in June 8th. And there were some changes that were made. You see these on the third slide, and I'm going to quickly go through them. This is what we discussed. We had 2 productive budget workshops as part of this process. And here you see where there was interest from council before. Be available for moving forward with that trail project. In addition, you did make a change. You just changed the nomenclature of the funds that we had previously been looking to utilize over at for the what I think we called the Tucker Recreation Center Stormwater Parking Recreation Pickleball Project, and now it's Parks Splost expense line. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that we had a very productive process working with you all, and appreciate all your time as we go through the budget and very importantly, our 10-year capital improvement program. So just to quickly highlight some of the items on the fiscal year 27 budget. These are net neutral items in terms of personnel. We were using a third party for handyman services, and we're looking to bring that in-house. And then some changes from seasonal to year-round on some of the out-of-school programming. We do
are looking to bring forward a 3% cost of living across the board for staff. In terms of studies, I know we discussed this in our workshops, but we're going to be moving forward with an update to our downtown master plan. That's going to be much more development based and really looking at where we'd like to see development take place. That was something had not gotten into in our first downtown master plan. And then taking a comprehensive look at our recreation facility, which we all love and has a lot of great use of, but we also realize there are challenges there. So it's not just looking at that building itself, but looking at how we can continue to offer that kind of service for our citizens. And then a community-wide survey as we look to garner more input and design our programs and our budget. And then just real quickly on some of these words here, but we've been looking at our infrastructure. We lean heavily into our capital projects for a city our size that offers 4 services, and that we look at how those can be sustainable. And of course, the importance of keeping them well maintained. Not going to read you our vision again, but we adopted it recently in our retreat. And I think the budget is, it's not just a numbers document, but it's a policy document, and it's a policy document that reflects your vision.
Director, real quick, that's still a work in progress.
Yes.
We talked about it, but
Right.
we did not adopt it.
Right, meant to say.
Thank you.
Our draft and working on as we continue to improve. Moving forward on our goals, and I'm just going to highlight some of these keywords, but I really think that when you look at the first bullets, you're talking about walkability, accessibility, and connectivity. Connectivity was something that started with our first comprehensive plan. How can we build those connections between our residential neighborhoods and our commercial areas? Of course, we're continuing to supply great infrastructure for the city with our engineering department designing it and our public works department building it. And we, of course, are always looking at the safety. Safety is number one, but we're also building reliable infrastructure that we can maintain over time, and that does not come back to haunt us from a maintenance standpoint. And then we've always focused strongly on our economic development and our economic growth, of course, supporting our downtown, ensuring that those local businesses can grow here and our other businesses. We focus, we had a very successful small business expo last week. We also had a great business outreach program at North Lake Mall as we continue to develop and redevelop, serve our businesses, as well as recruit new businesses. Okay, not going to read all these words either, so I'm going to just hit some of them, highlight some of them. I know a number of our council members have spoken to return on investment and how essential that is. We have finite dollars, obviously, like everyone else, and we want to make sure we get our best bang for the buck. So I have to always lean on our Tuckertown Green, but we have other projects that are equally great too, but we're working to ensure that we're doing the best projects that get the best use and have the best return on investment for our community. Of course, safety is always number one in our sidewalks, our trails, our crosswalks, our stormwater, for all our parks projects. That's obviously key. And then our service delivery. I know I've discussed with you that we've moved in a process where we're really working in our concept and ideas, coming with our planning department and community development department, working with other departments, obviously working with the parks department, working with economic development, and then we take that through engineering, and then our public works projects builds our projects. And I think this has been led to a better, more holistic service delivery on projects. And then, of course, maintenance. It's something that we have to consider, something that wasn't a reason to think about when we were brand spanking new, but now we've got great resources. How can we maintain them? And how can we make sure that we budgeted the dollars so that we're keeping them in tip-top shape? Here we are some of our just general budget items in terms of our largest revenue sources. You can see there property taxes, occupational tax certificates, franchise fees, and insurance premiums. And then, yep, sure. Of course, if you have more specific questions, Finance Director Cron here could probably answer them better than I can, but I think those are have remained as percentages have pretty much remained steady. Obviously, when we were originally started as a city, we did not have millage rate. As we gained services and took down parts and continued to grow. And then, of course, the step that follows this is where we look at our millage rate. And then largest expenditures, this is really in terms of programs and staffing. Of course, we have interfund transfer, but I think it speaks to the services that we deliver, zoning, stormwater, parks, and the importance of those programs. Okay, capital budget planning. Those are the large projects. We have a lot of projects, and we have a lot of projects that aren't receiving funding right now, but are in our capital improvement plan. And this just highlights at this snapshot some of our larger projects. Of course, resurfacing is something that's done on an annual basis, and all these projects tend to involve some degree of GDOT, grants, SPLOST involvement. And then landing with our 10-year capital improvement plan. Derek and Eric and the rest of the department heads have worked really hard to come up with a comprehensive 10-year list of projects. There are a lot of, we have a lot of great plans, and they have a lot of projects in them, and we can't do everything. The finance department has done an excellent job in coming up with a balanced capital improvement plan. I think, to me, coming with the planning background, the plan is the key word there, because these projects can change over time. Something that is 6 years, 8 years out, you can come back to this because you're going to be looking to approve this CIP at least on an annual basis. And those projects may or may not move forward, may or not stay in whatever budget year they're in. But we can go out to our community, and we can look at potentially in the future at other financing mechanisms, and we know where we have a priority of projects. And I think that's critical for the city as it continues to grow and grow up. And with that said, I'll, of course, entertain any questions.
I'm going to give a little preamble before.
Thank you, Mayor.
Your questions. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I want to say again, I appreciate council and staff. We've had 2 retreats already since January. So I appreciate the time and attention you've paid to that to help set the stage for this. And I want to thank you for your time. We also had 2 council workshops as well. So I appreciate that above and beyond. I thank everybody for doing that. It's important. It's important to invest our time into this because our community invests in us. So I appreciate that. I want to reiterate the CIP, very important, because that will help with future funding. And I know Derek gets mad at me when I say this, but when we get it done, we can look at some bonding, right? Some parks bond. I know, I'm teasing you, making sure you're awake. And, but it's okay for us. We want to make sure that we show that we have a plan, because we've kind of had one-off plans in the past, but we're 10 years in, we need a plan. And so this helps guide us and helps keep us in line and moving forward. Although, as we know, tax rates can change and evaluations can change and all those different things, and different funding can come in, and we get new businesses in and maybe something else happening. We get a little bit more of a tax base too, as well as we focus on economic development. So it doesn't mean things are static where they are, but we are concentrating on year 27 and 28. I did want to bring up, because we have spent a lot of time on the CIP, and we'll get to we have a public hearing discussion. Remember, it's a first read, but also in this, you included, there was fees. There was a fee schedule and several other things in here. So I'd like for us first to look at the new things, right? And ask some questions on the new things that we've seen with the fee schedule that was included in here. And then we can come back to the general questions of the budget itself and do a public hearing. But before the public hearing, I would first like to do the fees, review the fee schedule. So do we have that to pull up? We had it in our packet. I know, but it would be good for everybody to see it on the screen. If we can pull that up. Be some public comment on that, so I want to wait till we pull that up. And who's going to be prepared to talk through that with us? Okay, thank you. All right, I'd say just give us some highlights and then we can go into the questions. Well, I'll ask this, are any questions on pay structure while it's up there? I think it was pretty standard.
Start with,
Okay.
so the only changes here are going to be those 19 new Parks and Rec seasonal staff members and the one new permanent or year-round part-time staff that was highlighted in here. Another new was the maintenance tech as well. The other changes are going to be, can we scroll in this? Can you bring that up for me to scroll, please? Thank you. Communications is changing their coordinators. They're just changing the names of these. They did change bands. There won't be any change in pay for these positions currently. They're going from an hourly to a salaried role, just for need of the position. There's that maintenance tech, and then the only other changes in the finance department. After I was appointed finance director, my position I changed to a controller position just for need of the department and where we're going to focus our attention throughout the year. So it's something we changed. It actually lessened the pay structure, so the pay scale is actually lower than it was previously.
Okay, thank you. Stay up there for the fees.
Absolutely. And for the fee schedule, I'll be kind of deferring to the department head themselves. So, yeah. Did it not fall in there? One you already had open. Fee schedule, yep. So for the finance department, just because we are doing the permit cards for alcohol serving, massage parlors, all those, I know I'm not supposed to use parlor, I'm sorry.
That's
Fixing
an
that.
old school term.
Yeah, exactly.
Massage therapy.
But we've had some people lose their card, so just we're passing that fee along to the people that have lost their fee. The fee for the original card is inside of what we've already been charging.
Okay, I think that's smart.
And Sarah, you might want to come up here to help with any of the Park and Rec changes. They've just kind of expanded what along those lines of, hey, we've needed those new 19 seasonal people, some of the out of school programming and some of that, those items is just, these are the updated rates for those programs.
Who's behind you?
But this one works too. Oh, you're good. So I know we had the annex charges because we were trying to utilize that space a little bit more. Within the programmings, I don't know how these entail. You have all the details on that, so.
For me.
Yep.
So the annex was this past year kind of floating out here of whose responsibility it belonged to. So I requested that it came to our department and us use it as a site for more professional meetings. We've outfitted it since then to host those professional meetings, and we're just trying to get an hourly rate that is in line with our standard room and large room rate. So that is just getting it on paper and approved by the council. A lot of the senior programs, Parents Night Out, are programs that already happened. So again, we're just trying to get those program fees on paper for approval. And then the after school program is new. About 3 to 4 months ago, we sent out a survey and 119 people responded. And we asked about program fees. And if this is a program that they would like to see us implement. And we, out of 117, said yes. So we have enough to fill the program and to have a wait list. And this is the fee that falls in line with what they are willing to pay, and it is also competitive in the market and surrounding cities.
That's good.
You can't see that. So I'll give a preface to the next part that we're looking at. So, the next one is the Tuckertown Green Stage sound package, lighting package. The tech hourly rate and the maintenance tech.
So right now we're currently not renting out the Tuckertown Green until we have more processes and fees in place. This is just setting us up if we get to that point. We currently don't have sound or lighting. I have asked that in our CIP. So when we get to that year, I'm not sure what year it is. Hopefully we'll still be able to implement it. The tech hourly rate is to be able to run that sound and lighting. And then the maintenance technician is for those third-party events that we have, and them having us being able to provide that service for trash pickup, bathroom cleanups, when our staff isn't able to be there for the full amount of time.
Yeah, but that's more of just being prepared for when we're actually able to do that. So
The maintenance tech will probably be implemented sooner than later, because as we've seen the
Like
past.
Art Tucker,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
It will become, it's very beneficial for us to go ahead and implement that. The other three is later down the road. And athletes.
yep, we're on to athletics.
Thanks. I just ordered new contacts today, guys. The kickball program is already happening. We are looking to expand our offerings for pickleball and tennis, the group lessons, private lessons, clinics. The adult pickleball, golf, and tennis are the pickleball and golf is already happening, but we hope to add the tennis later on, maybe once Rosenfeld is done. And then also the court reservation system. It's just an opportunity for pickleballers or tennis players to reserve a court and have that dedicated time and not have to go to a court and fight for space.
This is still your section, Sarah. This is the event section.
The LED board, this past year we were asked if we reserve this. I don't know if this is, I don't foresee this being a major or a heavily requested use, but we wanted to get something on the books for if anyone came to ask us again. And we are just, because of the size, because of the equipment and hauling, and it needs somebody there with it. We're only doing half day and full day, 6 hours, 12 hours, a deposit, and then hourly rate for a technician.
So, and then you're not film permitting, right? That's not you for fees.
It is not me.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there and I'm going to ask if anybody has questions for finance fees or parks fees. Okay, Councilwoman Schroeder.
So I'm glad that we're kind of getting some numbers on the Tuckertown Green Rail. I'm just curious, and I don't want to, do your job, but can we look into a couple of the other parks and recreation departments across the cities to see what else they're charging? Make sure that we're being fair and kind of have a base on that before we put in the numbers, because I don't want us to undercharge. And I definitely want to make sure we have no money, that we're charging enough money to pay for the maintenance and whatever else we need, and get clarity on that usage and what that looks like. Because I know there's a lot of back and forth. I've had several people ask, and there's been some emails about what happened and what didn't happen to our Tucker, and it was all good, but I'm just saying, we're kind of getting our feet wet. So I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to what the others are doing.
Yes, ma'am. We do that. Ryan Wenzel, the event manager, went and looked at neighboring cities that have a stage, and looked at the comparability, apples to apples or apples to oranges, and then proposed a fee based on the information that he gathered in the conversations that he had. The same happened with the after-school program. So we do vet our program fees and services when we go to implement.
That's a good question. There's a city north of us that charges an arm and a leg just for a little piece of their park. So very good. I won't say who. Yes.
Okay, I have a number of questions, but I'm going to start with parks, but I have a finance question. Just because I'm jumping off of what we just talked about. I would love to see that bottom line item, the maintenance technician, applied to our larger park rentals and pavilions. So I would like to see that same kind of, we don't have the Lake Erin Pavilion right now. We're doing a new one. Again, the larger, more substantial, whatever y'all rate them, so that it's not a sub line item to the Tuckertown Green, but it's to say, like, for, if you are renting a pavilion, if you are renting an entire park space, then there is a that maintenance fee goes along with that. And I'll say, yes, I don't want to undercharge. I'm actually okay with like maybe undercharging for the amenity itself, but I'd be okay with bumping up the rate for the maintenance technician to kind of make sure that we're getting that maintained. And hopefully that person can make sure the bathrooms are open all the time when we're having events. So that's my feedback there. Like I said, I have a number of questions. This comes up, every time we get to the fees. I think, it would be great to next year, city manager, get ahead of this discussion, because it really comes down to program operations. And a lot of the questions that I know I have, that I know a lot of our constituents and community have, really has to do with like how this applies to program operations. So there's a couple of things that, like, I feel like the TRC membership, annual membership is probably underutilized. I don't know, haven't looked at the numbers. But on that, I'm saying, oh, look, there's a discount for a family, even though we say that only 18-year-olds can use the gym. And like, that's a really interesting like benefit when you are also looking at camp registration, after school registration. Like, is there a family discount of any sort for a second sibling? That's going to sort of tie into that question about, we had some hiccups with summer camp registration this time, where parents were having to fill out the same registration form for all of their kids, and so then they didn't all get in. So I think the rates seem fine based on my own personal experience of the number of camps and after school programs that we have to do. But I also know that most of those programs have a sibling discount. And so it is not, you're not having to pay, if you have 3 kids, you're not having to pay like $600, a month for that. So I'll pause on that one. So do we have discounts built in for families and or seniors?
They're not all, like, there's discounts for seniors. But I know that they have recently, as in this week, talked about a sibling discount rate, but they did not get me that recommendation in advance, so it wasn't included in this.
So I might just consider, as you're discussing that, it's the after school and summer school, but even for the youth programs or any of our recreation programs, if there's a way to frame it, again, same thing, like if you have 3 kids who are participating in the same league, that starts to add up. And so if there's a way to frame, not it program by program, but kind of like getting a sense of like, oh, if you're in youth programs, there's some consistency here. If you're in adult programs, there's some consistency here. Just so that, because I can't necessarily make heads or tails of like why one is so much more than like a different one. And I don't really personally care a little bit what the rate is. It's more about like the equity in terms of being able to access programming and kind of understanding what the approach is across all of that programming and why those fees are what they are.
I would like some time to explore that, look at the implications of it. I'm not opposed to it. I know equity and accessibility to our programs is big. Is for you. You've mentioned it several times. To a point, I created a financial assistance sliding scale program that we're going to launch.
That is great to hear.
Yeah, let me give me some time to like really look into that and see how it would impact our programs, our budget, etc. And as you see, like, I'm starting to fine tune our fee schedule. We still have more work to do, but this is just the start.
I think it would be great, even if it was a draft for the next one, to see what, like, again, maybe it's not the details on the sliding scale, but just kind of what we're thinking. And again, to our city leadership team, for me, it's because this has also been a question about some of our other fees, right? Like, what are the income rates? Where are the places where there are opportunities to like ease burdens for people that, are struggling? And so I think it'd be, great to even potentially use like the Parks and Rec model as a model, but I think it's just something important for us to be reflecting on. Okay, that's it on parks. I have questions for you, Eric. It's not new, but also you just laid this out so well, so it's easier to understand. So then I have more questions. So I know one of the things that has come up a lot is sort of like, what is the city's approach to OTCs when it comes to, right, a home-based business versus one of our larger companies? And a lot of times we hear people feeling, especially like smaller businesses, feeling like they're being sort of treated in the same way as the larger businesses when it comes to like the occupational tax certificates. So I'd love to understand a little bit more about the classes, but specifically on this list, the administration fee and regulatory fees. Are those a flat rate that no matter who is getting an OTC, they're having to pay?
Yes.
Okay, so whether you're a single person, like accountant working out of your home, you're paying $325 a year in addition to whatever else you're having to.
Well, regulatory fees are not for everybody. It's just the 125.
Okay.
Yeah, regulatory is something we're still working on, which was approved last year. Ted could probably speak to that because I know there's been a lot of emails about that recently. And we're still kind of working through the regulatory side of everything. Especially taking over like the permit for like the alcohol serving and all of those. There's some regulatory side of things too that we don't actually do ourselves. DeKalb has to regulate for us. So we don't charge those currently, but it's something that we've been working on with legal. And if it's something we need to take over, DeKalb is going to be doing that.
So in addition to, so you have your $125 flat fee, again, whether you're an individual home-based business or like a large new.
Yes. Yep. That's just like the application fee, like for us to process
Every year. And then on top of that, then there's the actual like tax.
Yeah, which is a percentage based on which class you are in. And I would have to pull something up to kind of show you what all that is. So it's all in our code. So like we can go look at it there. I can send it to you after this as well, so you can see all the.
And
definitions.
I know this isn't something that we can necessarily like address this budget season, also because this is already something that we do. But again, to my point about where we might think ahead for next cycle, where there are opportunities to think through ways we lower burdens for smaller businesses. I'm thinking also about several of the reports we've had that our OTCs are not getting renewed at the rate and speed and like that we would like them to. And so I think places that we can look at things like this where there can be flexibility because so many of our businesses are those very small single entity businesses. I just wanted to bring it. Thank you.
I've already given that charge. He knows what I'm 17 weeks in. So we are, it's a shame that the budget comes so fast, but we are working on that for next year. We've also talked about looking to see who's renewing, who's not, getting feedback from the actual staff members who process and do all that. What are the pain points that they're seeing? And then bringing in not, I'm watching Ted's face, bringing in some, what's the word I'm supposed to use? Courtney? Groups, gathering some people in to tell us what are their pain points. So nothing official, not an advisory board, a group, that's the word I'm supposed to use, group to sit around a table and share some of their pain points. So we're working on that. We'll work with TBA and some other groups to do that for OTC. Excellent. All right. Any other questions on this piece? And this is why we're doing this. We should have probably been doing this earlier. I know we were all focused on CIP.
Yes, a couple questions about the parks pieces. For the Tucker Town Green, are we looking at additional spaces outside of the stage, like the seating pavilion, playground, or anything like that?
Are you asking like what the rental gets you essentially?
Like for reservation, yeah.
Yeah.
Will there be like a
So
separate?
I would say this space is not for like having a birthday party on the stage or a baby shower. When we put this fee in here thinking about bigger park rentals that want to host like something similar like Art Tucker or Tucker Day at this event, at this space. These events also couldn't close off the park because it's a public park. So it'd have to be a bigger like community event gathering. So it's not, this is not a space for those small events or rentals.
Okay.
We'll have them. I've seen people out there having a birthday party and stuff the other day when I was out there, but it's like not official rental because you can't shut it off. Okay.
Right now, we're redirecting them to our rec center or one of our pavilions that is in operation.
Okay. And the park rental, that's the event fee that you're referring to, if for something like Art Tucker?
The $100
Yeah.
$100 an hour, yes.
That's great. All right, great. One thing that I hear a lot is, I don't know, what our contract or deal is with, TISA. Are we looking at opening up the soccer fields at all?
For open access.
Yeah.
So love and hate this, right? Because I'm big on having our gates open, but it is a wildly common practice to lock it because of maintenance,
Mhm.
right? And wear and tear. Like right now, we have a hard time keeping up with our soccer fields because of the overuse, and there has to be a dormant time to treat the grass for it then to be in tip-top shape, right? So it's a delicate balance. I am looking into, and I'll get with a new director when he starts tomorrow, if there's certain time frames that we can implement, like a open access playtime. Or we just say, okay, next year we're gonna build build a higher dollar amount in our maintenance budget. Sorry, Eric. To
Like, you're not building anything new.
If we do decide to just open access all of our gates, one of the counties I worked in, it was like that. And then when we had rentals or baseball programs, we would line drag the fields and then lock the gates ourselves for that time period. So there's different avenues we can take, but it is a very common practice to keep them locked. So yes, we'll look into it. Long story short, sorry for that tangent.
Right size, the maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's like something I hear pretty frequently is like people are looking for somewhere to exercise, somewhere to just meet up with friends and hang out. They see a locked
It is
a grass area.
in my field. Yeah.
Great. And then I know we're just setting the fee. Are you looking at like when we're gonna do court reservations for tennis and pickleball? Because right now, obviously, we're a little constrained on space.
Yes, so that's just setting us up for the future and what we foresee happening as we move forward. I think we need to get the projects done and have some finality to what it is going to be, and then get our legs settled. We gotta crawl before we walk, and then eventually look at transitioning to a court reservation system. We don't have that hammered out. We went in and looked at neighboring cities and what they charge per person per hour. And it went up to upwards of $10 an hour, and we knew that we didn't want to price people out. We wanted to keep it fairly low. This falls in line with several other neighboring cities around us. Agape at DeKalb is $5. Decatur is the $2.50. So we went with a lower amount so we can get our sea legs first, and crawl before. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting that backwards in my head.
Yeah. No, I love that most of our fees are pretty low. We're a city, we're government, we're a service. We're not here to make money, right? So that's really good to hear from you. This is pretty good timing. I had someone reach out and ask about opening trying to start like a softball league. Is this the same fee that they would be dealing with, or is this just for us to host our own and the
For
league
the
or something like, if they wanted to do like
the baseball fee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That is very, very, very new. And the softball fee is in there. That I guess should be highlighted because we had a community member very interested in starting that program. They're launching it to give it a try, and so far they're getting people signed up for it.
Wonderful.
Best pitch.
For this softball one?
Very good. All right, remember, let's see. All right.
There was one question that Councilmember Nguyen kind of triggered in me talking about the rental at the town green. Has there been a consideration for a minimum person or anything like that when you're looking at when to start charging fees if someone wants to rent, like say the stage, or I don't know,
Oh,
just something to
so
think about.
right now, I have formed a team of our staff with the park superintendent and the admin manager leading this charge to sit down with our athletics team, our facilities team, any facility park that we can rent and whoever it impacts to sit down with them and go through all the nitty gritty details.
Yeah.
And what it takes to reserve the place, what is needed, permitting, alcohol permitting, etc. They have been going through this process for about 3 weeks because it was triggered by myself and Sonia trying to update the Parks and Facility webpage, and it is like Pandora's box. Every little turn, we're like, oh, what about this? Oh, this is an issue. We need to address that. So we're working through those details right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other thing, when I read this the first time, I don't know why I thought the park, the pavilion rental was like at the town green, but we're actually talking about pavilion rentals throughout all the parks,
Yes,
correct? Okay, so yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about the fees because when you think about our pavilions, there are different sizes. And we even have one at Probst Park that's really small. It's like a 4-seater. So, maybe there's no need to, but if we're looking at, and the one at Rosenfeld, for example, is fairly small, but the one at Peters Park is pretty big. And then, of course, the previous one at Henderson Park was even bigger. So I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about the impact on the community and their expectation with, hey, I'm just coming into Probst Park. I'm not sure people will, that's going to be like a rental per se, but just an example, how the different sizes might need to be taken into consideration. And when folks are, so way back when I was running the first time, I called up Rip and asked, I'd like to hold the pavilion, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you just show up at the time. So this to me sounds like we're formalizing where anybody that wants to do, say, a birthday party at Rosenfeld Park next at the swimming pool, that is that going to be, they're each going to have to spend, the $25 and then the deposit and all that stuff.
So Probst Park, we didn't consider that a pavilion to
Okay.
us. So it was more.
That makes sense.
Both, right? So Henderson Park, Kelly Kofer, Rosenfeld. These are the pavilions that we would rent out, and $25 per hour is
Yeah.
actually a very, very low rate for pavilion rentals. We can do a part 2 next year when we go in and look at the square footage, look at neighboring cities, and consider prices for bigger pavilions. Like Henderson Park, like Aaron Pavilion is probably double the size as the rest of them, right? Like if that remains, I understand why we would want to charge a higher rate for that
Right.
one.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
All right, y'all want to move this along.
Okay, I'm just to follow up, one thing I do want to mention is you can reserve, for people that don't know and have been able to for a very long time, all of those that are reservable online. And it is or did you take it off?
I did.
I was going to say it's so easy and you can see when it's booked, and I've done it over and over and over again. So, well, then to add to that, I think when this is decided, getting that back up then as quickly as possible, because it was a very, very easy, straightforward process to go through. And I don't think enough people knew about it.
It wasn't removed because of the fee. It was removed because once we opened that Pandora's box to all of our rentals, there was, we're trying to streamline and make it consistent. And once we get that finalized, I want community members to call the rec center and have a conversation with our admin or the people appointed to the various areas.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so-
hard for last minute birthday people that need to book on a Saturday for a Sunday event, which is what it let us do before.
Oh,
But we can talk more. My only other thing, just to add is I just with all these conversations, I think that I think the town green fee is way too low then. Like, I don't think it should be commensurate with our other parks. And especially if you're talking about something that rises to the level of potentially closing the park, for the amount of work that it takes to get there, $100 an hour is too low. You might consider a version of what you were talking about with the LED board, where there's also a higher minimum. So it's a half day, whole day option, not an hourly option if it's going to be that substantial.
okay. Received.
I'm going to say, I know you've got new staff director coming in and you guys are working still on some other things. So if it's not perfect for next read, maybe it's a placeholder and we come back and you can do a budget amendment. Is that correct? Or you can do a fee schedule amendment.
It'd be a resolution to adjust the fee schedule.
Okay. You know,
Yeah.
that way you're not, okay. All right. And then we've got some other fees.
There's only one other change, which is in the inspection world,
Okay.
where we currently do not charge for re-inspections, as in they schedule an inspection, the inspection is not up to code, is not compliant. We have to come back out for the inspection, which is a common practice. Derek, I don't know where we got our numbers from and what the average was, but this is just like a common, if we're coming back out there to get you back into compliance, we're charging you those additional trips out to your location.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we modeled a couple cities that we looked at that we wanted to keep this, nothing that was outrageous, but something to where we're not charging for it at all at this particular moment, but something that we are actually still going back out and re-inspecting. And if you don't have something that is charging you for the re-inspection, then, well, you can just fail and prolong your process as long as you'd like to. So this is just a starting point with something that we believe we would take a look at how many re-inspections we're having over the course of the year to reevaluate then as we get a fee schedule next year. But this was comparable with a couple cities in, I believe, North Fulton that weren't outrageous, that we believe would be fair as a starting point.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, and everybody for the discussion on this. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and do our public hearing first, and then we'll come back to other discussion and questions. And it's a first read, so we won't, we don't have a vote. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing for those in favor of this ordinance for our budget for fiscal year 2027. Anybody here to speak in favor? All right, I'm going to close that out. Anybody here to speak in opposition of our budget for fiscal year 2027? All right, I'll close that out. Now, I'm going to ask for any other questions for anybody, any other discussion items. Again, we won't be taking a final vote this evening.
Mayor, I'm curious. There was a change from the budget for the Kofor Trail. And I'm not seeing it on the CIP. Is that? I see.
Was a part of the consent agenda budget amendment where we removed those funds from the capital budget.
Okay.
So it went from 600,000 to 0, and it went back into fund balance so that we could have a balanced CIP.
I see. Okay. All right. That's why I was a little confused
Because there was discussion
on that
Yeah.
before. Okay.
previously,
All right. Okay.
but good point.
Yep.
Good point, Councilwoman.
Before we talk more about the CIP, because I agree, like we spend a lot of time, which we need to, on the CIP. Can you just reiterate for folks that might come ask us this question? I just want to keep highlighting this. So this fiscal year, we're proposing to transfer $2.8 million from general fund into the capital fund. Is that right?
Yes, my computer's not loading exactly, but
Yeah.
it was like 2.6, 2.8,
Yeah, yeah.
something in that range. Yeah.
I pulled it off the budget.
Yeah.
So I was just making sure I was reading it right.
Yep.
But then this current year that we're in, we had 8.1.
8.125. Yes.
Yeah. And then the year before. And that is because that was ARPA or not.
A little bit of combination of both. We had ARPA that was covering a lot of our personnel. So it was additional revenue coming in that was able to be allocated to capital. Some of that too would be unbudgeted items that were never expensed, so they fall back into the fund balance. They were available to be sent over to capital as well.
Okay. So right now, when we are talking about next year's budget, we are talking about from our general fund, which is from all of our taxes that we just went through, our property taxes, our OTCs, our alcohol licenses, that when we talk about what our CIP and what our capital program is, we are using our annual budget to supplement our capital program. So it's not like we are moving those taxes versus other things that are coming in a different way to capital.
Yeah. To an extent, depends on what you mean by other things, but yeah.
Other sources of revenue.
Yeah, so if it is a project we have grant money for, obviously that money goes straight into that capital fund, whether it's SPLOST or if it's 300. If it's a big enough grant that's not SPLOST, it'll go into the 220 grant fund like the Johns Homestead is now. So those funds get deposited directly into those funds. So they're not going to fall into the general fund and then be transferred to like increase that transfer number.
But just to the slide, so that's 8% of our annual budget is going to that, which is the same amount as what's going from our annual budget to Parks and Rec, and is the same. So it's the same level. So I'm just wanting to highlight and make sure that that's like I'm understanding and interpreting it
I'd have
correctly.
to- yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if they're the exact same number, then yes, I'd have to look at that to confirm.
And to say is we invest a lot in our capital projects versus having a larger operating budget. Most cities, it's a larger operating budget and smaller capital budget.
And also, thank you. I thought I sounded not loud. So just like you were talking about with that $8 million, if there are things that are unspent, like, or come in under budget, like we've had some really good efficiencies on some projects this year. So those are things that end up potentially going to other projects. It's a lot easier, I would imagine, as a person who's doing the budgets, to add to projects rather than have to say we didn't bring in the money that we're looking for and have to cut.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And the only thing I'd add is that doesn't include SPLOST too. So like the SPLOST revenue goes straight to SPLOST too. So that $8 million or $7 million a year is.
That's what I meant about the other dollars. And so also when we are starting to look at the CIP and we're talking about the different sources of revenue, we have certain sources that have those like millage rate like tied directly to them. We have SPLOST tied directly to them. And then we have some things that don't have that tied directly to them in the same way. And so, you know, we may only, for example, trails, be only able to use a portion of SPLOST for that because we don't have millage tied to that like we do parks and some other stormwater, for example.
Trails still has the allocation as well. So sidewalk and trails is the 31%.
But it's cost, but not, I'm talking about the millage side.
Yeah, the millage is more of the additional funds we don't spend in operating is available to be transferred to capital.
Yeah. Can you, because we've been spending so much time on this and we haven't actually adopted any CIP, what is the process for approving this budget versus adopting the CIP? Like, how are we going to go about that? So we have our second read next time.
The ordinance includes the budget and capital improvement plan, so it'll be adopted as one voting item.
And will that be the process in the future, or is that just this time because we didn't get the CIP?
It would be the process in the future too. Each
Want to
year.
reapprove the CIP with the budget.
Yeah.
So there's, oh, okay. I have some issue with that, but that's fine. That's helpful. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, so no other discussion tonight, Councilwoman Schroeder?
I think for me with the CIP, just a highlight moment for me, I sent an email with some questions to John as city manager, and I'm still, even though I went through a wonderful training with GMA about the capital improvement project program and how it's supposed to work, I still am stuck in a couple places about why decisions have been made and why things are on the list for 27 versus 28. So I just want to make sure that you hear that. I don't want to go through that entire email right this second, but I would like to, moving forward, continue to have some discussion as council about how that works, because we are all asking some of the same questions and we've had some great discussions. But I'm still a little nervous about how things fell into place as it is now, I guess. So I just want to say that up.
Well, I think now's the time to have that discussion because we're going to be voting on it in a month, right? So
Okay.
are you going to wait for staff to respond to those questions or do you have those questions now? Because I think it's
right.
I think it's pretty clear. I know there are areas that they are shoring up. I don't want to say discipline wise, but going forward, making sure that department heads don't just say this is a bucket for this, that it's a more specific project. And so I think they're working on that. You know, Eric, how far in are you as our new finance director?
Generic line items so that I know what projects are going to be, what you know what projects are going to be. So my staff that who has to go procure stuff or they come with procurement requests and they know the budget is actually for that and they know it's transparent. I think a lot of those they're gone in 27. So anything approved to be spent in 27, there's nothing that is generic in 27. So we can't have any surprise projects like maybe we've thought of or the confusion on some of the budgeting. And by next year, I would hope to get any of those generic ones kind of broken out into what we actually plan to do with those funds so that you're making a decision on an actual project instead of here's a
bucket of
little
funds.
amount.
Yeah.
And depending on how we present it, you may or may not understand we're using those funds and all of that. So we're trying to work through that right now. It's just kind of a mindset from what used to be done prior to this year of like, yeah, we can have this lump sum and we kind of just work through it, but without having the total conversation with everyone.
So like L29, it's not just a bucket that says L29. It says this project, this intersection, boom, right? Instead of north-south connector. It's not north-south connector anymore. It's roundabouts on Idlewood. Like we
Right.
eventually get there through the year, but we need to get there in this.
Right. That, which is exactly where I was going with my questions 2 weeks ago. So that's helpful that we're paying attention to that. So that kind of calms me down a little. I just, you know, there are a couple things that I think you're moving because of year to year, depending on what you think you can get covered or the team thinks. And I think that's important to note, meaning, you know, if you're going to do design and you have to pay for construction, sometimes that comes one year and then the next. So I understand that, but sometimes we skip years. So I wasn't sure how that planning worked, except for if we just needed a balance. And if that
A
is
little
the
bit of both.
case,
There's a little bit of both. It really depended on balancing. It depends on, so like the one intersection at Moon Street, Rocket Road, we know that getting through permitting is going to take us extra long. So
Right.
design and right of way and permitting may take longer. So we've kind of allocated, and some of that might have been balancing as well. But yes, we're always going to want to balance because we want to make sure that what we plan to do is actually something we can pay for. So yes, it's a little mix of both, I would assume at this point, and hopefully after we've passed it a couple times, we'll have a more clear process, and a lot of these new projects will be at the end where like, even if we have to do the lump sum for construction on something from a study we do in the future, even though we're limiting how many studies we do, we might do the study this year. We might have to do a lump sum the year out or 2 years out, construction, and then we come back with the actual, hey, we're getting closer. Let's actually see what the projects are, because we need that study to be done to know what the projects actually are. It's hard to have the projects ahead of time until the study's done. So, but I think that's going to be more normal to be like, hey, in 4 or 5 years, it's okay. But when we're talking about 2 to 3 years, we don't want generic projects sitting out there. So,
Okay, that's, I mean, I think that's a good question, and I appreciate your answer and sharing all that. I think that's a lot more helpful to me.
Yeah, that's a great question. And permitting, just for those, it's CSX, it's a railroad, so sometimes it takes longer between that and GDOT. But sometimes it might not, right? When we invite them to lunch, like we've done and said, hey, this is an important project. I know.
Great idea.
Well, I think to that point, because I was in my head, it's approve the CIP earlier and then work the annual budget off of the CIP versus like doing it at the same time. Because if priorities shift in the CIP process, then you're like reworking the budget in the same process. Again, more for the future, because we've been kind of workshopping this concurrently. And that was sort of what was in my head as I've heard from you all say, oh, well, there is flexibility, and oh, we can go back and amend it anytime. And like, but we also need a roadmap. So it's like, there's only so much amending you can do. But I think being able to get ahead of that conversation, again, priorities wise on council around the overall updates year to year would make it be a smoother process than sort of shoehorning it in the annual budgeting process, which, as we just discussed up here, there are probably a number of other things in the annual budget that we would like to talk. We're trying not to get into like little teeny tiny details, but we understand that the CIP is the big rock that we have to tackle. So I'm just saying that our conversation has continued to be, what are our priorities and how do we use those priorities and the themes that we were talking about to kind of guide the whole CIP, but then also that being connected to the annual budget. And so to that end, like, and my point about where it might be easier to pull in from a year that is slated further out than to commit in 1 year and not be able to make that. If there are additional places from 27 to 28 that we can split large things, because we don't actually know if they're going to happen completely in a full fiscal year. And then if we have the funding come in or it's ahead of schedule, come back and be like, hey, we already, we planned for this in 28. We have some flexibility. Let's pull it into 27 versus saying like, oh, none of these conversations are we're cutting things. It's that like, how are we shifting and prioritizing? And so I'm concerned about 2 things. I'm concerned about the fact that the highest number of the capital dollars is this fiscal year, and then it just tanks in 2 years. And I know some of that is like, we're thinking we're going to get some additional funding. I definitely want us to, but I want to make sure we're getting things done. But I'm also just trying to think through, like, it goes 16 million, 10 million, 9 million, like 10 million. So like there's a pretty steep drop. And so if there's a place for us to kind of still smooth that out, because I know you've been working really hard, Eric, to keep our fund balance the way it needs to be, I still think we should look at that. And again, how can we do some more shifting, like across a couple more years, so that we can not be committing to all of it at once. And I think to Councilmember Schroeder's point, I think we need to really be looking at design and be clear that, like, to the question I asked like 2 weeks ago, how are we defining what we're talking about when we have various projects? So like, what does a design commit us to and when, and how are we thinking about where that fits in with like an overall process? And what do we, like, are we talking about a feasibility? Are we talking about a study? Or are we talking about construction design? And are we talking about 30% or 40%? And do we need, for you all, a policy that says, like, we can't approve a design unless we have funding commitments? Because I'm concerned about the number of projects that we have already. Like Kofor, I'm going to use the Kofor Trail. We haven't had a design for that trail since before I was on council. It hasn't been a priority I am not advocating for it to be a priority. I'm just using this as an example of it's 6 years late, 6 years later, 5 years later, and we're just now being like, we're really not going to do this. We need to like put the money aside. And so if I want us to be a little more conservative in how we're thinking about what we can really do next year. And I think this is still a really like high number. And that doesn't even include what we're doing this year.
Isn't some of that timing with GDOT funding coming in too? That's why it's so large with the 80% for 78 in MIB and Hugh Howell.
It is. Yep. And it's you gotta think it's also an 80-20 split, but it's reimbursable. So we have to pay for it. We're not ever receiving those funds until we've already completed the work. Which is why it's so much higher the next couple of years, because MIB 78 should be completed in the next couple of years, where $7.5 million of the revenue in those first two larger numbers is coming because we have the additional $7.5 million of revenue coming in from GDOT for that specific project. So
Like two of
I
those
think-
projects are what, 80% and then 2020, but 10 and 10 because of the CID, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So it is just the reality of what our finances are on a year-to-year basis. And you'll see middle of that, which is a very low number, our fund balance. If we end up expending everything that we budgeted, there's not a large fund balance, which we talked about. We need to get a policy that says we need to have X amount of fund balance, even in the capital fund, not just the general fund. Because like we had this year, we had $1 million change order at one of the lakes or the dams, and
We have to do it.
there's
Well, and
you're
that-
at that point, and if we don't have that fund balance, we don't even have the ability to complete that emergency fix. So we'll be coming with a policy to do that as well. But then we have to find the plan in the CIP to build that CIP or build that fund balance up as well.
And
So.
I think even with the 80-20, I think is a good example of, and we heard this all the time in 2022 about how with the pandemic, concrete prices went up, asphalt prices went up, and we've been lucky that they had gone down a while. But like, we're talking about two really substantial road projects where asphalt, we know oil is going up, like, and we are committed to that. So if it's 80-20 but it ends up being twice as much, that's the extreme, twice as much as we budgeted for, we still have to pay that twice as much amount. And so that's what I'm getting at. Like, even if there are those big ones that we have to do, then we need to figure out where we can have a little bit more wiggle room if the things come in higher than we would like them.
Exact balance would be our kind of solution to that. And we have some the next couple of years, but you see down the line, it's a lot lower than it is the next couple of years. So.
All right, we're good. All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to I-7. We're gonna start street resurfacing.
We have contract C 2026-006, PO 26-1343. This was approved by resolution R 2026-05-19. It's the consideration of a bid award for the 2026 street resurfacing of 29 streets within the city.
All right, Ken,
Good evening.
good evening. You have your tie on. You want
Needs
some
money.
money.
Resurfacing. So we've talked before how the fiscal year doesn't align with the paving year. So the fiscal year starts in July, and by the time you get a bid out and get the contractor mobilized, you can't really do a lot until the following year. So that's kind of what we did with the current fiscal year 2026 budget. We budgeted about $4.5 million. So that's between SPLOST and the state LMIG funding, and then we supplemented that with some of the local capital money. Adds up to about $4.5 million. So we did release a contract last year for about $2 million. Yep, about $2 million. So we got that done last fall. So this is the remaining, we have a remaining balance of about $2.5 million. So how did we come up with our street list? Well, we've got our pavement management study. So this goes back since we started paving roads. We did a comprehensive pavement management study. No, sorry. No, I've got no slides for this. No, I've got no slide. So we do these pavement management studies that takes a very scientific look at all the streets and all the conditions and a number of different factors. They call it a PCI score. So we rate all the streets that way. And our approach for the last 8 or 9 years has been what they call super segments. So I do not have slides for this. I know. It's getting late. Sorry. So we call them super segments. So it could be a single street, like a main road from point A to point B, which is a logical way to pave a street, or we cluster streets. So it could be a subdivision, it could be a group of 2 or 3 streets, but it just makes sense. It's more efficient, it's more cost effective. A lot of times you have a subdivision, and if you go in there and only pave one street, then everybody else gets mad, and then you end up with all the heavy trucks beating up the other streets. So that's why we kind of have taken that approach. But over the last year or so, we've seen one of the drawbacks from that approach is that if you have a subdivision of 10 streets, and you have one street within that subdivision that is in really bad shape, but the rest are in pretty decent shape. Well, the average of that grouping of streets is high. So I'll get a call and say, when are you going to pave my street? It's falling apart. Well, I'm sorry, you're like 5 or 6 years away because the average of that subdivision is higher. So we wanted to do a one-off this year, and we did identify that a couple of subdivisions. One is Settlement Road, Johns Road. I don't know if that has a name, but that grouping of streets off of Lawrenceville Highway, and then Lake Ivanhoe was highly ranked subdivision. But then we wanted to take an opportunity to pave some of these individual streets that are in really bad condition that otherwise would have to wait a number of years, and they're just really beyond the point that we can just patch. So that was our approach this year, and we took about a dozen of the worst individual streets. That's based on citizen complaints and our own analysis. So we've come up with a list of 29 streets. We bid that out. We're really concerned because of oil prices were so high. But we got some good bids, better than expected. We had 10 responses. Adding a contingency, the amount comes out to within budget, $1.92 million. So we're recommending that award to Allied Paving. Allied has done some work with us a few years ago and did a good job for us.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right, any questions down here? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Couple quick questions, and maybe a comment or two. I was actually happy to see Chedworth Cove and some of the places in Chedworth get paid because they are in really, really tough condition. Also Kanawha Drive. But I wanted to find out because I feel like we paved Millstone Run, but I could have that. Did we not pave Millstone Run? I see you've got a patch here. Is that something that?
Yeah, so we paved the road, and yeah, we're just patching. I don't remember the distance on that.
Okay.
But there's a part that failed, which happens sometimes when you do miles and miles of streets. You try to make the money go as far as you can, but sometimes
Well, that is a long
Yes.
stretch. Yeah, so that makes sense. That might be it, actually. I'm just curious about that, but I was also, happy to see a little bit of the other. Actually, my last question, I was trying to look it up. is it 2.9 we have in the budget for road paving total? Is that correct or no? Do I
So we're
have
talking
that?
about this current fiscal year. We have about 2.5
this
million
current, yeah,
left,
yeah.
I believe.
Gotcha.
Next year, you're making some pretty significant cut, and
Yeah.
I don't recall what that total is. It's around
Yep.
2.5, I think.
Yep. Okay. My head is next year, I think.
Yep.
Starting in July. So, okay. Thanks, Kim.
All right, down here.
Ken, it's probably a obvious answer, but can you define deep patching for me?
Yes, so every street is treated individually. Some would simply do a 2-inch mill and overlay. Some of them have some really bad spots, and so you have to go deeper. So we go 6 or 8 inches deep and take out all the bad crap underneath it, that because if you don't, it's just going to fail. So that's what we call deep patching, is we go 6 or 8 inches deep, get all the unsuitable material out.
And that's as opposed to a total reclamation? Is that in the middle of top and total reclamation? Or?
Yeah, total reclamation is you're basically building a new road. You're going down probably 12 inches or so, taking everything out, putting a soil cement base and rebuilding the road. We've done that in some cases that are really bad. We probably could justify doing that a lot more, but it's just so much more expensive.
A couple of things. I want to do a shout out to the communications department because I do feel like we've done a great job of like highlighting when streets are up. I still think it's another flag, just again to be how we can be extra mindful. I'm having flashbacks to last year we did some and got some irate folks about, well, the sign just showed up the day that like they felt like the sign showed up the day the paving was happening. So who lived on a cul-de-sac. So I just want to flag, like, I think it's good when we're letting people know in as many different ways, social media posts, et cetera, and just reminding people. I would actually ask that as we're doing that, we also consider putting like very clearly up near the top, like the point of contact, phone number and email. Because I think we de facto as council become the point of contact on those things. And then we're scrambling to come back to this, staff and be like, what's the answer to this? So I think we have an opportunity to maybe put that, have a question, concern, et cetera. This is who to follow up with, even if it's the info at tuckerga.gov. But maybe flagging for the folks receiving those about how it's going to be handled. The other thing that always comes up, and it's frustrating to me, and I know that I don't think that the Allied one that we're being, considering right now is the main offender of this. It is very frustrating to see us spend all of this money on the paving, and sometimes the paving goes all the way over the curb, and sometimes there is an actual like runoff channel. And I feel like I regularly get told, well, that's just the design, but it doesn't make sense for it to be the design when on one side of the street it's one way and the other side of the street it's the other way. And so I guess what I'd like to flag is like whatever we can do on the quality control side of it to review how it's going in. I know we had some speed bumps last year over on Winding Woods that had to get replaced like 3 times. And I know it was at the expense of the contractor, I believe, but I think that needs to be part of what we are saying. So, before we had so much opportunity, we were having to just do paving, and it did take a lot more to do that milling, the mill work. We have some streets that the main part of the street is real great, but it is frustrating to see the paving go, again, one side and the leaves are pooling, and the other side there's a nice runoff channel, or half the street it's one way and the other half it's another. So I have multiple constituents who come up with it, bring this up over and over again. And so I would just like to really be clear on how we're going to make sure that we are paying attention as we are continuing to do this.
Yeah, so we try to just replace in kind. So a lot of the subdivisions in the past, they've been paved sometimes multiple times, and you have a lip that's over the gutter line. And sometimes we try to reduce that lip. In other words, we might mill 3 inches and put 2 inches back to reduce that lip. Sometimes that additional asphalt could cause drainage problems, so we try to be cognizant of that. But in general, and again, to try to make our money last, we try to replace in kind. So if there's a lip now, we generally try to do the same. If we can get it flush with the gutter, then we try to do that. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I mean, it answers it. It's just if we've had 10 years of doing it not correctly, and then we're just matching now where it was done.
Let's do it the best way it should be done.
yeah,
Right.
oh, sure.
And then Ken, also, now that we're in charge of stormwater too, let's watch the cleanup, because I know we had some issues with crumbles.
We had some issues with our last contractor in terms of cleanup, and that
Yeah,
point will be emphasized.
thank you. Because you don't want to have to walk around with Michelle Pancava again. I know that.
I don't mind.
Good, John. All right, any other questions on resurfacing? All right, do you want to read the contract in? Bonnie, you did? I'm so tired, I'm sorry. Okay, we're getting there. All right. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve contract C2026-006-PO 26-1343 by resolution R2 026-05-19.
No second.
That was a mouthful, thank you. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor? I see 6, thank you, thank you. Very good, all right, Bonnie, I8.
We have contract C 2026-04-PO 26-1329, consideration of a bid award for engineering design for Hugh Howe Trail Phase 3.
All right, now here's your slide.
Thank you. And this is all I've got on this one, is just a map. So we've talked about this a couple of times in the budget process and so forth, when we awarded, or when we made the budget last year. This is Hugh Howe Road, what we're calling Phase 3, which is from Stratmore Drive to Silver Hill Road. We identified years ago in the Trail Master Plan that that we wanted a side path, basically what they call it, along Hugh Howe Road all the way to from downtown to Stone Mountain. So it's obviously a very ambitious project. We're having to take it in phases, and this map just illustrates how we've done it. We started off with the Hugh Howe Marketplace that was developed at the MIB intersection. So our zoning code required that they install the linear path as part of their development. So that was done in 2021. And then after that, we built our phase, basically from Smoke Rise Elementary to Marthansville Court. And then in 2024, we did a couple of things. We filled in a gap in front of Crestpac, and then we extended the trail from Marthansville to Stratmore, where it currently terminates. And then west of Mountain Industrial, we did a little segment to get over to Tucker Industrial. And what that will do is connect to our future Greenway connector there at that point. So again, we're taking bites at the apple. We're doing a little further section this time in terms of engineering design, because while it's just more cost efficient to go ahead and look at a longer section. So we're going from Stratmore to Silver Hill. in terms of engineering design, we got a really, we got several good proposals, but we got a really good proposal from Kaizen, which is a former Tucker business, with contingency is $164,532. We budgeted 500,000, so this will give us plenty of room to do easement acquisition after the design. I think that's all I have.
I have a question. This is this fiscal year, it was budgeted, approved last budget season.
Yes.
Does it, because we're trying to think about things as group projects now, right? Or grouping them together. So when we look at Moon Street, Rocket, Trail, right? That's one example.
Yes.
With this one, having that design coming to Rosser, right? And it goes through Rosser. Does that help give a bigger picture of that project when we look at the right turning lane and we look at the landscape and the chimney and the traffic light and all of that that's going to be happening right there? Does that help with that?
It does. So, I mean, we knew this project was budgeted or would be budgeted when we looked at the intersection improvement of Hugh Howe and Rosser. So that's currently under design. As you know, we've had a public meeting. We're going to come back to you at the next work session to talk about where we are on that and kind of get your blessing to move forward. But in the scope of the engineering design for that intersection improvement, we said, we've got this trail coming. So you've got whatever design you do, you have to incorporate the trail in the limits of that project. So it won't be much. It'll be, a couple 100 feet each side of the intersection. But that part of the trail will be constructed with the intersection improvement, because the last thing you want to do is put in something and have to tear it back up.
Well, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but doing the intersection and then even building a chunk of that up to it, right? What is it, 2 blocks? Okay. I'm not changing any of this. I'm just saying it's something to think about as we move forward on this.
Hey, can you tell us, I know this is the design phase, and then in our CIP, this isn't slotted to be built out into, I think, something like 2030 or 31. Do we have like a funding strategy, or are we just going straight from try to fund from our budget, or are we looking for grants? Because I was just, sorry, I was reviewing the Trails and Transportation Master Plan update that you had sent out, and this one was also moved to like the midterm in terms of priority. I was just wondering, like, how are we looking to get this built out eventually?
So obviously you guys set the priorities. It may be a few years out in the CIP. You can always adjust that if you want. I do not recommend federal funding for a project like this. I think more appropriate, like at the Tucker North Lake Trail, which is an off-road trail, much more complex. I think that makes sense. I think if you try to get federal funding on this, of course, it'll delay the project, but it adds to the cost quite a bit to go through that process and do all the environmental documents. I don't think it's a good use of funds to do federal funding for a project like this, or a sidewalk project or something like that. It's just, to me, it just doesn't make sense. There's some cases it definitely does make sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So obviously, you and I have been working on this for quite a while. Certainly Council Member Orlando has participated. I want to go back a little bit to the history of this project, just because it has been a long journey. So can you talk a little bit about the evolution of this project and how it, maybe even add in how it came to pass that this project, which was actually the second trail project to begin, but there were reasons for that. So could you delve into that a little bit?
So when we first did the trail master plan, this was about 8 years ago, we laid out the different projects. You've got the Kelly Cofer Park, you've got South Fork Peachtree Greenway, you've got the Tucker North Lake Trail, you got the Hugh Howe side path, and we looked at scheduling at that time. How can we get these things moving kind of concurrently? Well, we knew that on the Tucker North Lake Trail, we wanted to go after federal funding. So we knew that was going to take 5 or 6 years. So we said, well, what can we do kind of concurrently while we're going through all the permitting on these other projects? What can we do to get something on the ground? So one thing that was recommended was the Kelly Cofer loop, because we've already got, that's a city park, we've got the right of way. So that was a recommendation, although it, I guess the priority has lessened since then, but that's fine. But also another priority was this Hugh Howe Trail, because most of it is, can be done within the right of way. We will need some easements, don't know how much yet until we do the design, but that was kind of the thought, is that we can be permitting on some things and construction on something else.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and I think that's what you and I talked about a lot, was that the 2 segments that was built after, because there's 4 segments that were built. There's actually the segment that we got across, that we were able to get across Mountain Industrial Boulevard, so that the community that lives around Hugh Howe Road eventually could also, because it's about connectivity to downtown and all that. So I guess that was the 4th segment. But those 2 segments were relatively easy, I guess, and as you're saying, cost effective, because we do own 50 feet of right of way on each, from the center line of the road on each side. So that's part of the ease of it, I guess.
Yeah, that helps. Now, the last segment, Jack and I went knocking on doors, and I think there were like 7 or 8 easements, and we got them all donated. So that was good. This one probably won't be quite so easy. We'll have to probably have a firm that goes out and negotiates with folks. I'll add one thing that I left out. So the proposal here is to design this next segment from Stratmore all the way to Silver Hill. That doesn't mean you have to build it like that. So,
right.
I mean, our very rough estimate right now is $3.7 million to construct that. So you don't have to construct it all. You can, again, take bites at the apple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you want to cut it up to too small of pieces, because that's, economy of scale. You get a better deal doing a little bit more, but you could, for example, go from Stratmore to Rosser, and then Rosser to Silver Hill, or break it up.
Right.
We're not committed to doing to constructing that entire segment right now.
Gotcha. So with regards to this particular contract that we're considering tonight, the idea, as I understand it, is to approve this contract because when you and I were talking last budget season about this funding, it was the idea of just making sure that we kind of knew where we were going, right? So sorry, either just did the next segment to Deer Ridge, or got down to collaboratively when we're, hopefully improving the intersection there of Rosser Road and Hugh Howe Road. Either of those sections, we could actually utilize the budget conservatively and carefully while we're doing other projects in the city. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think what we do is do the engineering design. We get a detailed cost estimate, and then we can have a better understanding of how much sections will cost.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Ken. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. I'm just curious for the budget, if you could just clarify something. Did we budget like 500,000 to include right away for this project? And so it's supposed to be spent now, or you're putting it in the next year?
So
It's only about 150,000.
yeah, it's 160 something thousand.
Oh, sorry, maybe.
So the 500,000 was Ken's estimate on the design. So the remaining funds could be used for right of way. It's not going to go towards design because that design is at 160 and change.
Okay.
It's kind of up to you if you want to use those funds for the right of way acquisition after the design is done. I don't know if we wait for the design to be complete before you decide that or whatnot. That's really for council to decide though.
This current fiscal year.
That's currently budgeted in fiscal year 26. That's already approved.
Okay. That's helpful. And then I think the next question I have is, you just said that we probably wouldn't be able to attract federal funds for a project like this? Is that? what
I think you could try. I don't know how successful it would be. You could apply for it. I just don't think it's prudent to go down that road because it's just you can do whatever you want, but I just think you're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of time and effort on something that we could construct fairly reasonably.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I also was curious, if we go through the design process and then we start the right of way, we couldn't find federal funds because we have started the project.
That's
Isn't
right.
there a certain line when we're not eligible?
Yes, so, right, so once you do the design and then you decide you want federal funding, then you have to back up and go through the GDOT process. Once you start acquiring right-of-way, that's the point of no return. You can't get federal funding at that point.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right.
So one, I want to go to just talk about what's been budgeted for this year, because there's a number of projects that were budgeted in this year that we made decisions throughout the year that it wasn't the right time after we had some conversations. And so, I know why we have the why is partially me. I know why we have delayed the trails master plan update, because we want to make sure that we're getting it right and we're looking at it correctly. But one of the reasons that I know I was hoping we would be able to have some of those decisions earlier was because, as we talked about, part of this update is that we're looking at reprioritizing and how we understand what different trails are. And so I'm just trying to reflect on, even though I couldn't be here last Monday, I did listen to everything. Trying to reflect on when we talk about trails and the quality, what we mean by a trail is not just a trail. One of the reasons that I felt like Cullycofer was an okay one to let go in the short term is because it's a residential trail. And so, I was looking in the trail master plan and I can't find it now. I know we had brought up, how can we look at return on investment? But they do talk about kind of that economic, impact of how you can generate funding. And so just thinking back to our conversations about the South Fork Peachtree Creek Trail and how it is residential, but it's commercial, it's mixed use. And so I do think, even though we are talking about the long-term CIP separately from this fiscal year, the decisions we make now set us in motion. And there's several other things that we have had to say we're moving forward with because we already went through that design process. So I'm just very hesitant on any designs right now when we don't have specific funding allocated. And again, I think Vin's point, looking at the CIP construction of the 3.7 million, which is a lot. It's a lot that we are digging in the couch cushions for the full 1.5 million that we're saying that a number of us want to see happen for South Peachtree Creek in the next 2 years. It's hard to be like, oh, well, 3.7 million in 10 year, 8 or 10 years to construct because we're prioritizing this funding now versus if we could delay it when the timing makes sense more to when we could construct that. Because I appreciate that we are talking about this being like this longer term piece, but this is a largely residential like trail. It's not going to generate economic like business revenue the same way that things that are in commercial corridors. So I think when we talk about how decisions were made and where we're at, we have the flexibility to reshift because I'm very worried about, like I said in the previous discussion, what we are committing ourselves to, because there's a number of things that we've committed ourselves to, or that portions of, we have all been committed to, whether we've had a chance to have that full discussion.
I think those are good points. And I think we get committed to that too, because there's term limits. So some of you might not be up here if there weren't term limits. I'm just saying, right? We have new energy that comes in. So we're kind of anchored to some of the decisions made previously that had studies and everything else that, it's just the fact of life. And then if you're doing federal funding, it takes a long time to fix those things. So sometimes that does, and I appreciate the frustration, but that sometimes does happen. Like I said, I'll be dead before all this is done, but that's frustrating too, but I understand that. All right, one more and then.
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback off that. Those are really good point. Again, I think a lot of the projects that we have coming up, I felt like personally I was kind of already locked into because we went through so much of this design phase and right-of-way acquisition. And, I think Councilmember Weaver has a pretty good point. We're trying to reprioritize. We're trying to get the South Fork Peachtree Trail done as soon as possible because that's been listed as one of our top priorities. So it seems in conflict to like move on with this and then have us try to budget both the South Fork and the Hugh Howell at the same time in the upcoming years. Again, like reviewing the Trails and Transportation Master Plan, Kelly Cofer was on the short term, the South Fork was on the short term, and this project is on the medium term on the goal and priority list of the new plan.
All right. Roger, anything to add?
No, I was just going to make them.
Okay, Mr. McHenry?
I have some questions.
It is true that when you have design work done, there are grants, there have been Tiger grants in the past where they're looking for projects that are shovel ready. So certainly we don't want to have just a whole bunch of design plans. We want to do projects, and obviously these are your priorities. I'm just saying that when you have the design work done, you are that much closer to construction. And what we have put in front of you with the capital improvement plan is something that is going to change over time. So just wanted for you to consider that. And I do hear from residents that live in that area and talk about how excited they are by the existing trail and how much they're looking forward to it getting closer to them so they can use it. A lot of great projects out there. I don't envy your position because it's hard to make these priorities, but I did want to just put that out there.
All right.
So can I ask some questions about the funding? I have some things I'd like to say, but can I ask some questions about the funding of South Fork Peachtree Creek, which, by the way, I just want to reiterate, as I've said plenty of times before, I do support that project, but it is my understanding at $8 million, like I'm still unclear that we actually do, that we could even go forward in this segment. But with Hugh Howell Road, I have advocated for segments in order to chip away at it. So I understand that philosophy and that argument. But with regards to the South Fork Peachtree Creek, That project, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I looked at the numbers, $2 million for right-of-way alone.
1 million.
Okay, 1 million for right-of-way.
Which has been
For-
budgeted.
Okay, so in the next segments, if it's $8 million total, right? How, I guess my question is, maybe even to my fellow council members or whatever who are advocating for the South Fork Peachtree Creek, if we're talking about scrambling for funding, this is such a high dollar project that it will be very difficult to chip away. But if it's $8 million total, how do you parse that out? Right? The point
I
that
think we already talked about focusing on one segment and taking that as. an
in the
example.
next segment,
Yeah.
and then in the next segment, because I was told that the next segment's going to be a lot bigger, right? I mean, you can't, with the thing that about Hugh Howell Road, again, is that you can do it in segments. You can get to the next street, open that up to the neighbors that live in that community, which, by the way, I do believe economic development can be triggered in a lot of different ways. I read an article about a lady that reimagined her downtown by bringing art to the downtown, completely changed that downtown in South Carolina. So there's a lot of ways to imagine economic development, but this trail, just like all the other trails, I knew I had a question here, I'm sorry, but this trail, Hugh Howell Trail, connects our neighbors to the downtown. Hugh Howell Road does not have sidewalks, so it is a safety. It's a safety project. It's a transportation project. It's a tactic to help slow people down, which the people in that live off of Hugh Howell Road and Lilburn Stone Mountain are very, very nervous. I'm sure you've heard about it with some of your friends that live out there as well. So this is an opportunity to slow folks down. And I am really concerned about pulling away. Again, we could even say we'll do the construction and at least see where we can go, how we can get up to that Rosser Road with the intersection improving there and find out how much we're looking at. We did the first segment around 600,000. I don't remember what the second segment was. So this is a lower dollar amount for each segment, whereas we're looking at an $8 million project. And I don't see the funding. I don't see the capabilities with everything that we've got going on to be able to fund that.
All right, we've strayed a little bit from asking questions and then making a motion and having discussion, and I apologize for that. But no, it's all of us, and it's me too, so I apologize for that. Roger? Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve contract C 2026-04-PO26-1329.
Second.
All right, we've had some discussion. Any more discussion on this? All right, everybody ready? Okay. We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor? Right, I see 4. All those opposed? 2. All right, thank you. The motion passes. All right. Thank you, Ken. I'm sorry we gave you a hard time tonight about not having a PowerPoint. All right. Isher, you're up.
We have,
PowerPoint.
all right, we have contract C 2026-005-RD and SWMAINT. Consideration of a bid award for daily operations of road and stormwater repair services.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. As Bonnie mentioned, this is for the contract renewal for our roads and drainage crews. This crew is currently being managed and operated by Triscapes, our third-party vendor. Ever since we became a department within the city of Tucker, Triscapes has provided this service on a 3-year contract. Roads and drainage covers everything like the name says, everything related to roads and drainage. You know, this differentiation between what we call drainage versus stormwater. Drainage is more what you see at the surface versus the stormwater aspect, which is underground and beyond the scope or capabilities really of this crew. Not that they couldn't do it. But I just have up here some pictures of some of the work that they do. So they do sidewalk repairs, they do asphalt patching, they do the drainage, clearing of the ditches. They have installed some lighter pipe in the middle top there. You see the black plastic pipe being installed. They do a lot of lid replacements. Again, in the top row with the skid steer and the forks, that is a catch basin lid that's being replaced. We are doing a lot of those currently as part of the MS4 inspections program, where we don't just in the 80s and 90s, DeKalb had a quick response program where they just placed concrete tops and they were inaccessible from there on out. You'll see them all over, more particularly in Smoke Rise. So these allow us to get access and be able to view what's going on below ground, just for future reference and projects. I just want to highlight real quickly the amount of work that these crews have done independently. From July 2023 to the end of April of this year, 2026, the drain crews alone have completed 701 work orders, and the road crews have completed 627 work orders. The drain crew is 3 folks, and the road crew is 4 folks. That's an incredible amount of work by any standard. I mean, they do high quality work too. You know, my thing is always do it once and do it right and get in and get out. So I'm very proud of those numbers. I'm very proud of the team, and I'm excited to continue that contract with these folks. This is kind of the financial impact that we have. Top left picture there is how they do the lids. It was kind of a way to utilize and maximize their efficiencies during rain days. So basically, they go out and measure them, and then they come back to the shop and they make them there, and then they just deploy them as they're cured. You know, so they don't have to do work in the field. It's just more efficient. They order a big cement truck and do it all at once. So the fiscal year 2026 numbers versus the fiscal year 27 numbers, as you can see, they're very similar. Again, we are kind of leveling out on the amount of potholes and things that we have replaced or repaired, and the catch basin lids. You know, these are things that are going to last decades. They're very well built by GDOT standards. So the numbers are a little bit pretty much the same from this year to next year, and that's directly from our draft budget that you guys reviewed earlier today. So we went out to a RFP service or RFP and requested proposals. We received 4 proposals, all of which were ranked and rated based on project management plan and their qualifications and cost. Based on the cost really included the crews and machinery. All the materials were passed through, so they're not making a profit on any of the materials. And we ranked it, and Triscapes became the recommendation by far. Rating there 97.08 versus the second place of 40.03 or 83 points. So that is our staff recommendation to award this contract to Triscapes for the next 4 years. They're 1-year contracts, but renewed annually. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have regarding this contract.
I did have one question. First of all, I do think that Triscapes has done an incredible job for us. And they have gone the extra mile on many occasions. I recall from feedback, you know, in our weekly reports. I'm just curious because we have been making a lot of decisions on budget. This is a contract that is really part of the general, the funds come through general fund, through the stormwater fee, is how we cover this contract. Is that correct?
No, that's not 100% correct. The contract is funded 60-40. 60% general fund and 40% stormwater fund. The stormwater fund alone is the part that comes from the stormwater utility fee.
Okay, great. I'm glad I asked the question. Thank you.
Just because you're talking about the catchment basins too as part of this, I know I saw several council people jumping in on social media about some of the damage that has been done recently and on Smithsonian Way in District 3. Can you just speak to like how the damage is, like how y'all are being like addressing? So I know that's not directly to this, but I'm just sort of thinking more about like the sorry, my brain is still not fully there. But like the insurance policy essentially, right? Like, so like when damage occurs to those sorts of, to things that we've installed because there are apparently people deciding it's fun to smash them up.
Yeah, so we don't really have insurance. I mean, we do have to pay a flat rate monthly for these crews and equipment, and then obviously the materials, as I mentioned, is a pass-through. So if one does get damaged beyond repair in the field, it will have to be replaced. From what I've seen on pictures provided, those can probably be reset in place, re-anchored down, and then just fixed in the field. Our policy is if rebar is exposed, meaning it's cracked straight down the middle, or it creates a risk for fall, we do replace those. However, if it's just the edge or the face of it that's chipped, we can do cosmetic repairs in the field. So, I hope that answers the question.
All right, we're ready? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve contract C2026-005 RD and SWMAINT. Very
Second.
Maintenance, yeah. All right, second.
Second.
Councilman Nguyen, thank you. All right, any discussion on the contract? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? All right, 6-0. Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie, I-10.
We have contract C 2026-008-ROW-MAINT, consideration of a bid award for right-of-way maintenance services.
All right, thank you again. And just like the last discussion, this is the right-of-way maintenance for the City of Tucker's Public Works Department. What they do, again, they do a lot. They mow the grass, which is their primary role, and they do that on a rotating schedule, and I'll show you that map a little bit later. But they also do vegetation cleanup, so anytime a tree falls, they're the ones that first respond. They do have reach back staff with tree companies, such that if it's in power lines or if it's just too large that they can't handle it, they do call an actual tree service company. The picture on the right is them preparing the salt and sand and rock mixture for winter weather response. And the lower picture is just trash and debris pickup. These gentlemen go out and clean up our right of way. Again, more pictures. These pictures are more specific to the Helene response. There you have a large transformer in the middle of the in the slide there, and some trees that fell at nearly midnight. We worked through the entire night, and these crews stayed. You know, they didn't go home to their families that night until 11 a.m. the next morning, and then they took a couple hours rest and they showed right back up. So they work really hard. Their response times are incredible. They're all pretty much local to the area, so they do get here within 45 minutes. Really is the longest it took them, and that's because you had to go change. But and then they also do the winter weather response. So these are the folks that are responsible again for the winter weather implementation, the plan implementation, plowing the roads, brining the roads, and spreading the salt and sand across the roadways. Work orders, again, 802 work orders out of 4 folks. That's another huge number. So things that they do, the mowing schedule, I know this is kind of hard to see. I don't know if I can zoom in here or not, but probably not. But this is the mowing maintenance map. We've tweaked this based on feedback that we've received to maintain areas such as Juliet Road and more of the capital projects that we've completed in the past 3 years. It's important, based on feedback that I've received from mayor and council, that we want to maintain those to a very high standard. So these areas are going to be mowed and mulched and planted more regularly than what we previously had in the past 3 years. The landscaping, these are the areas again where we're going to be doing the mulch and the plantings. So you'll see like Chambly Tucker all the way up there, those medians, Juliet Road, East Ponds, all those roads or Hugh Howell, I'm sorry, all those roads are included now in this map that weren't previously included before. Street sweeping, big change here is where we went from a quarterly street sweeping maintenance to a monthly street sweeping maintenance. So these roads segments that are highlighted here in blue will be swept on a monthly basis. This is part of the requirements of MS4 that we keep records of this, and we also keep records of the tonnage of waste that's removed and where we dispose it. So there's just more record keeping, but a better overall project or delivery for our residents as far as street sweeping. And then the winter weather, these are the roads. The pink ones are GDOT treated and the blue ones are Tucker treated. So we are covering all of our major arterials. And the idea here is not to get folks out of their homes to put us forth a false sense of safety, but really to get emergency vehicles through. You know, we don't want to make it to where people are comfortable leaving their homes and then they're confined to Tucker thinking they're safe. They can go other cities, but not all cities do this kind of level of treatment on the roads. But we do want to make sure that emergency vehicles can make it to a residence or a business in the event there. The financial impact, you'll see that there is a little bit of a bump on this financial, again, based on the draft budget that's in front of you, that was in front of you earlier tonight. There is a bump here, but the change is we're adding a whole second crew. So rather than 4 folks, we're going to have a total of 8 folks, and they're going to be doing that maintenance, much more routine, maintaining those capital projects and to a higher standard than what we have in the past 3 years. So there is a little bit more of a bump. The materials or the supplies have not gone up that much. We have accumulated enough dirt, and we make our own mulch. So based on the trees and limbs that fall down, once we get a good bit of it, we mulch it ourselves, and then we reuse that mulch across the city as well. So once again, we went out to an RFP process. We received 4 bids. These were a little bit tighter, but again, the staff recommendation is to award this contract to Triscapes for the next 4 years annually, annual contracts to be renewed annually from here on out. So that's any questions you may have.
All right, questions down here? Yes.
Ishri, this is kind of probably be out of scope, but I'm curious, as we continue to move forward as a city and have beautification goals, I'm kind of thinking about some of those major thoroughfare, streets, MIB, Lawrenceville Highway, La Vista. Can we explore having your team do a little bit more in the areas that need it and or encourage, I guess, the neighbors, the business owners to join in? Is there a way we can explore that in the coming year?
Yeah, so technically those are, the ones that you listed at least are GDOT right-of-way, La Vista, Lawrenceville Highway, MIB north of 78.
Right.
They are GDOT right-of-way. GDOT does not normally have an issue with us going above and beyond. It's on our dime though. And then they're not going to take the ultimate care when they come in with their own mowers. They're just there to mow and move on. So, a higher level of standard would be on our dime, and we do run the risk of them not taking that much care when they do come through. I'm sure coordination efforts could be handled and discussed with GDOT and their right-of-way maintenance crews. It's just not something we've had. We have done work in the right-of-way for them already. It's just been under their direction or their approval.
Okay, that's helpful.
Well, and our CIDs have contracts with them.
Yep. Yeah.
GDOT for some of those roads as well. Like you see MIB and stuff too. So
Yeah, MIB
it might
is.
be a conversation with them.
Yep.
All right, good point.
I thought when you said out of scope, you were gonna ask them to come cut your grass. I was like, Kara, that's not allowed. No, I'm teasing. He does a good job too.
Little question. So over the last couple of years or so, we've sort of talked about the signs and being able to maybe clean up some of the worst looking signs. I know you guys had your hands full the last few years. Is there a schedule to sort of up that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's actually part of our sign signal maintenance contract, so that will be coming to you next month. But I can answer that question in that, yeah, we are getting more proactive with signs. But we always welcome the neighbors or yourselves to input and provide that, hey, this sign needs to be looked at. And what we do is we go out there and we drive it and make sure that it has reflectivity still. And if it doesn't, it's either replaced. And most times with these signs, unfortunately, they can't be cleaned. They're just beyond that. So we just replace them.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Ishri.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can I get a motion?
Sure. I would like to make a motion to approve contract C2026-008 ROWMAINT.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All right, got all six. Very good. Now we're gonna move on. We got mayor and council comments, but we do have executive session.
Mayor,
and-
can I?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, on that last
Did I miss something?
motion, not sure I could, I just want to make sure that was for the Triscapes contract
Yes, for right-of-way maintenance.
for the sum of $717,180.
Yes.
Okay, I just want that on the minutes because
Okay.
that number, I think, would.
All right. Thank you. All right, excellent. When we will have executive session, so we'll go and we will return. We may not take up any business when we return. There might not be anything to do. So any mayor and council comments?
I didn't get to shout this out before, and it is kind of one of the bummers of doing council comments so far from public comment when we can't respond. But Lois talked about the arts and Tucker Arts Alliance, which I'm, extremely excited about their 501c3. One of the things that did happen at Art Tucker is my son, who is 14, had the winning art piece of all the middle school students that submitted art. Just really proud of him. He took a picture. Hopefully, we're still working on figuring out if there's a way to display the art here, but he took a picture of Kofor Lake, and it was quite beautiful. So it wasn't just Tucker students that were a part of it, but our Tucker middle school student won. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and I'm really excited about the number of teachers at Tucker Middle School and Tucker High School that are planting roots in Tucker and are investing in our kids, both during the school day. The art teacher, the STEM teacher. The mayor mentioned that tomorrow several of us are doing an interview with also my son's STEM class. I think they are so excited to finally have a chance to be able to give back to their community, which I think ties in so well to the Tucker Youth Council as well. And so I just kind of wanted to acknowledge how much the kids and teachers in our community are invested in this being this place to really plant roots and grow and find ways to get around our community safely. And I'm hoping we can still figure out some ways, because they love the town green, they love downtown, and it's just still really unsafe to get from the middle school to downtown. And so I hope that we will prioritize not just their voices, but also their engagement in our city as much as we do people who are older and have more resources. Thanks.
All right, very good. All right. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of personnel, real estate, and litigation.
I will second that motion.
All right, thank you. All those in favor? All right.